Hey everybody, today we have with us on the show Illimitable Man, and this show is going to prove that we are not the same person. Hey, I am, what's up?
No, we are the same person. There's fake news that we're different people. I don't.
You have to mimic my Indian accent if you have
No,
to act like I'm the same person.
you need to mimic my English accent. So
I can't. I've tried. Believe me, I took lessons on how to improve my accent, and at the end of it, I'm like, I'm done with this bullshit.
you
I'm
know
happy with my accent. I'm not changing it. This is too much work.
it's probably really annoying to try to deliberately do an English accent as a foreigner, especially if you're not a child anymore and you're an adult. They probably like get you to like put a plum in your mouth and do some weird shit like, oh, talking this way, and like your whole mouth is like just feels weird, and you're just like, fuck this shit. I'm just going to speak Indian accent. Can't be bothered.
Man, the
they probably,
English
you know,
syllabus are very different from Hindi. So in in the extreme stereotypical Indian accent, it's very different. For example, a South Indian will have like a completely different accent. But
mm,
I think I've hit the sweet spot where I'm understandable by everybody without you having to put in too much strain into trying to understand what I'm saying. Because
mm,
back in the day, back in my older podcasts, my
mm.
foreign audience would be like, I can't make out what the fuck you're saying.
Well, I can make out what the fuck you're saying, but I don't think I am a good representation of what people in general can understand, because I can also understand like really fast hip hop and shit that most people can't understand either. So I don't think I'm a good example. But what I will say is I don't have any. Obviously, I can hear you're Indian, but I don't struggle to understand what the fuck you're saying. So as long as I can understand you, I don't. I mean, I'm kind of selfish. Don't really give a shit. We can have a conversation. I think it's maybe like 1%, 0.5% of the time I will have to ask you to say it differently. But generally speaking, we can speak for a very long. Like me and you have had many conversations, and generally comprehend or understanding each other is not an issue. But saying that, obviously, you have a very strong Indian accent, but it's not like, so Western people, they call up a fucking call center, yeah, and they get some super like some rapper Indian with super thick accent. They speak really fast, super thick Indian accent, can't understand anything. It's like how to speak Hindi while speaking English. It's like impossible. You cannot understand these people. You just hang up. You just hang up, call again, and hope for a better one.
I watched a video of an Irish guy speaking English, and I couldn't make out anything what this guy is saying.
Okay, so
Did
I can
someone steal
understand.
my ears and my goats? I'm like, what?
Hang on,
I need subtitles.
this is why I'm a bad represent. I can understand the Irish people as well, but they are, yes, they are hard to understand for most people. They are hard to understand for English people. So if you're not like if English isn't even your first language, and you're listening to Irish people, like, if you say you want to study and learn English and it's not your first language, look, trying to learn it off Irish people, you're like fucking yourself. Like, you're making life so hard. Like, don't do that. They pronounce certain things wrong as well. They pronounce it in a quote unquote Irish way. They don't pronounce it in the proper way. They don't pronounce it in a way that an American or a an English person would pronounce it. They pronounce it in their own way, which is just wrong, but it's right to them, but it's wrong.
I wonder what the English people's perception is about multilingual people. For example, in India, it's very common to speak three languages, four languages,
Yeah.
two languages everybody speaks.
Mm.
In your case, you guys only speak one language. So how does that go? Don't you guys feel the need to learn a second language just to improve your brain's ability to think?
Well, you need to. Okay, this is a very good question. Um, so you need to think about the reasoning behind and the logic behind why people learn languages. So if you live somewhere that is multilingual, you're more likely to have parents that speak more than one language, which means your parents will teach you more than one language. So that's number one. And number two, you have to think on a pragmatic business basis. Why do people learn English? Because they really like Anglo-Saxon culture from 1352 AD? No, because they want to make money. Okay, So people like third worlders, they learn English because English equals money. That's why they learn English. Not because they love our culture or whatever. Maybe some of them probably do like our culture, but some of them. And maybe that sum is a high number, maybe 50%. But the point being is there is a practical reason for them to learn English. The English do not have a practical reason to learn a foreign language. If an English person learns a foreign language, it's because they have a niche interest or passion for, like, if you like think about it, if English is your first language and you come from England, what language do you need to learn that's going to help you and your family make more money, that's going to improve business for you, that will allow you to access new markets on the internet and sell products to people you otherwise couldn't sell to, who have higher purchasing power than your people? It doesn't exist for you.
Obviously,
We don't have the incentive. We don't have the incentive, right? So why like I say, we learn languages. If we do learn another language, it's out of love or passion, or maybe you found someone from another country, or not even from another country, born in your country but has parents from another culture and they speak a different language, and you learn their language because you love them. They see very different reasoning. What I'm saying is there's no business case for a Westerner to learn a non-English language. Now you could argue, the Chinese Mandarin, this would be a good reason. Or maybe if you're in a very niche specific industry, you're dealing with foreigners, maybe it's worth learning Russian within that industry. Maybe it's worth learning Mandarin or whatever. Okay, cool. Or maybe if you're in corporate and you deal a lot with Japanese companies, then you should learn Japanese. Okay, there's practical reasons. But as a culture, as a cultural whole, there's no reason to learn any other language. And think about it, if all the foreigners, not all the foreigners, but of many, like, English isn't the most spoken language, but it's the most widely spoken language, right? So Mandarin is spoken more than English because the Chinese are such a big population, but the spread, like the number of English as a second, which language is learned most as a second language? English is learned most as a second language. Why is that? For profit, as has previously been said, right? So if you can go to many countries and you can always find someone there who speaks English because they want to make more money, that further disincentivizes you. Do you know what I mean? It's like your language it's kind of like asking an ancient Roman, well, you know Latin, but why don't you know like Phoenician or some random language from a less influential place that isn't going to make you any more money? Like, that's basically why. So the flip side is, why would an English person learn a quote unquote obscure language, or not even an obscure language? Why would an English person even learn French? Because they're interested in the culture, purely. Like, it has to be out of love, out of passion, either because you like a culture or because you have a connection to a family or a person from a foreign culture who speaks that language and you want to be closer to them. That's the only reason English people have to learn any other language. And yeah, I mean, the disadvantage of conquering so much of the world and incentivizing other people to learn your language is it actually, on the flip side, makes a disincentive for you to learn other people's languages. But yeah, I on a general I think generally speaking, it would be good for. I do think we should learn other languages. We just don't have an economic incentive to do so. But I
I would
definitely
agree with you about the economic incentives part. Go on.
I irrespective of the economic incentives, I still think it's good for the brain and good for I think we're being a bit lazy because, oh, there's no money, let's not bother. Okay, but money is not everything. Money is important. People say money is nothing, are stupid. Oh, money's nothing. Okay, be poor, enjoy being poor, your life will suck, right? Obviously, money is something, you need money, blah, 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 whatever. But people are like, money is not nothing, but it's also not everything, right? So you shouldn't need money to do something. I think it would just be good for our culture to receive, because different cultures think in different ways. Different languages literally construct their sentences. They have different syntax, and so a different syntax. So the order of the sentence and how you describe things is like kind of like a different way of thinking, right? So if we want to be able to think in different ways, if we want to be like, if we want to increase our range of thought, it would definitely benefit us to be able to think in other languages. I think that would be a strength for us as a culture, and I think we are worse off for having it. The whole there's no business case for it or economic case for it is me explaining why we don't learn other languages. That's not me saying why it's okay that we don't learn other languages. I don't think it's I think it is more beneficial and more optimum to learn other languages. Absolutely.
I agree with you about the economic incentives part strongly, because I learned English in my teens, in the sense that they did try to teach me English in my school, but I
Mm.
failed English across my entire school years. And then I
You probably
started
hate
reading,
school, didn't you?
yeah, then I started reading this book called Harry Potter and all these novels, and that's how I learned English. So I suffered from very bad pronunciation for a
Mm.
long time because I just learned English by reading books. So I could read it
Mm.
well, I could write it well, but I could not
Yeah.
pronounce it well because I
Reading is
just learned by reading.
reading is bad for that. There are words in English that I don't know how to pronounce because I read them and I never heard anyone speak them. So there's like a saying I read a while back, which was, if somebody doesn't know how to pronounce a word, don't make fun of them because it means they learned it from a book. Because obviously, if you learned it from someone speaking it, you would know how to pronounce it, right? But
English
there
is very horrible with this, by the way, because the letters don't actually tell you how to
yes,
pronounce it.
no, they
With
don't. No,
Hindi,
you're right. You're correct. Yeah, it's
I
true.
can exactly by looking at a word tell you how to pronounce it. But with English, for example, take the word colonel, Colonel. Now, why is it colonel and not colonel? Because
Hang on. So Colonel, Colonel, right, can also be spelled Kernel, Colonel. You see, English is full of this fucking bullshit, right? and when you think of Kernel, that's a real word. I don't know if you know that word. Look it up. That's to do with computing.
yep, pull it
it's
up.
nothing. It's nothing
That's what
to
I
do with.
thought.
Yes, it's nothing to do with the military, and it sounds exactly the same. So yes, English is very annoying for foreigners, and the reason it's very annoying is because English is derivative of so many languages like High German, Latin, Ancient Greek, Anglo-Saxon, like Britain original language, whatever the fuck that shit was. There's just a bunch of shit all mixed in there, and they all have conflicting rules. It's like, when you say I know something, as in like to comprehend, I know. So the know is spelled Know.
Mhm.
In previous English, so like English from like 600 years ago, you would not pronounce that no, you'd pronounce that know. I know that. Know. And that's logically makes sense. It's about Know, know. But now we would say no. So literally the first letter and the last letter you don't even pronounce. You just pronounce the two middle letters. And no, Know, is pronounced the same as no and O, which are the two middle letters in that word, but also a separate word, which is the opposite of yes. So yes, English is I can see why English would confuse foreigners for sure.
The good thing about English as a global language is
Hmm.
that it's actually
People are franco.
relatively easy to learn. It's not super complex. If you've tried learning something like Mandarin, that's actually really hard to learn. But
Yeah.
English is not that difficult. Like there's only 26
Well,
letters.
well, here's the good thing about English, right? Is you can have imperfect pronunciation and still be understood. So we can like compare to like Americans and British, like tomato, whatever. It's like, okay, we know whichever one you say, people know what you mean. But like in Mandarin, if you like change the vowel sound a little bit different, you said a completely different word. Now you don't understand you.
Exactly. And I think that the world we live in today, like you and me communicating on the internet itself would not be as big of a deal if the British had not spread English all over the world. Because the only reason internet is so big is because people from all over the world can communicate with each other. If I do not understand your language, for example, why are Russians not a big deal on the internet? Because they don't speak English. Or
I
the
mean,
Chinese. The
see,
Chinese don't have access.
I'm just going to say this very arrogantly. You need to fucking improve our English. Get better. No, I mean, you're right. It's the same for the Chinese as well. You're correct. They and also by the way, you would probably never think to mention this. Also, the Turkish are very bad at English, which is the opposite of like say like the reason say the Swedish or all the Danish or the Danish, Norwegians, all the Scandinavian countries, the reason why they and say the Dutch are not a big deal online is because they have small populations, but they all speak very good English. Why do they speak good English? Because they use it as a lingua franca, right? Which is means the language to communicate with people who do not speak your language, the mid like the middle language, the intermediary language. So if a Swedish person who speaks Swedish and a Norwegian person who speaks Norwegian want to speak to one another, what language do they use? They use English. So they speak very good English. If you go, you can literally go to all of Scandinavia, or you can go to Holland, Netherlands, whatever, and speak English there, and almost everybody will understand you. They speak excellent English. Russia, China, Turkey are the opposite of this. If you go there speaking English, you have to find the like one guy who is like he's doing like a special lesson in college, and he knows these countries. They just don't care. They just think, yeah, we don't like money. We hate money. We're black label logic. We don't want money. We don't want to get paid. Fuck
Oh,
them.
so for context, Black Label Logic used to be a writer on Twitter. He was a friend of ours. I mean, not exactly a friend, but we knew of him. At least I knew of him. I don't know how close you were with Black Label Logic, but he just disappeared. He deleted his account, he deleted his website, and he just disappeared from the internet. And I think the public reason he gave was that he made very little money from his website. He was making, from his tweet, he said that he was making 10 grand from his website and 300 grand from his salary job. And personally, I think that with his brand, if I was running it, I would have, I could make at least 150,000 bucks a year
He should have hired you and done a
from
50.
his audience, and without scamming anybody, by producing valuable products that people would be happy to purchase. So I think he was just shitty at business.
Mm, mm. Good at politics, shit at internet business. Because if he wasn't good at politics, he would not keep his 300 grand fucking corporate job, right? If 300
Exactly.
grand and 10 grand are very different numbers.
So here's the thing, here's how blogging has changed over time. Where,
Mm,
10 years ago, right? Like, I
yeah.
think since you've been writing for over 10 years, I've been writing for
Mm,
6 years, six and a
mm,
half, maybe. So back in those days, you could get like a million people on your blog,
mm.
but you might make like only 200 bucks from it, from ad revenue or what have you, because
Ugh.
people in those days, they just did not like monetization, in the sense that if you had like an affiliate link on your blog, people would complain about it, even if it was like a link to a book that made you 8 cents per sale. But now the everything has changed completely. Everybody's used to monetization everywhere, and you can have like a $600 product from day one, and no one, not even one person, is going to complain about it. It would just be accepted as normal. So
Mm.
you can make a lot more money now on the internet than you did back in the day. So I think a lot of these guys who've been writing for say 10 years, right, they haven't caught on to the fact they're just not good at making good products that sell and marketing them. They're just good at writing articles, which
Things,
is
yes.
like
Yes.
shooting yourself in the foot.
Being having good content doesn't mean you're a good marketer. And to be honest, they're kind of antithetical, right? So a marketer is interested in two things. What can we most like MVP, minimum viable product. What can we most consistently produce that will yield profit, and how can we most persuasively transmit that so we can get conversions, so we can make money. That is how the salesman or marketer, whatever the fuck you want to call it, that's how they're thinking. The person who makes the content, if they think like that, they will make dog shit content. Like it's kind of like being, like the artist, the creator, whatever. They cannot think like that, because if they think like that, they will not even make something worth selling. They like this, and I think Black Label Logic succumbed to this, and yeah.
I'm not fully convinced about the whole businessman versus artist, as like as
Trust
like
me,
a
it's
zero
real.
and one thing. I
You
would
don't,
say that you can have like a nice thing where you produce really valuable content, but you also have products people can pay for. In
yes.
the sense, you don't have to be like a complete salesman who just wants cash. You can
Okay,
also
I agree with you. I agree. So, yeah, no, you're right. You're right. Okay, what I'm saying is that some people lean more one way and some people lean more the other way. And if you can get in the middle, if you can make really good content, but also monetize that content really well, then you are like a master, like, because you're not just, like the magazines, like men's magazines in the old days. It's like 10 ways to like get some girl to suck your dick. I mean, it wouldn't say that obviously, but it'd be like 10 ways to be more attractive to women. And it's like, oh, so to me, I see that. I'm not even gonna, I'm like, really? That's gay. I'm not even gonna click that or read that, like open it as a it's just nonsense. But that shit sells. The average, because I'm not an average man, right? But the average man will be like, "Ooh, 10 ways to make girls like more attracted to me," and they'll open that, and that is good marketing. This whole 10 ways to, like, it's none. If you read, if you can read any of my articles over the years, like short essays on Twitter, threads, long essays on the blog, doesn't matter. None of it is 10 ways to do this or 15 ways to do that. It's always more about a topic in general, and then trying to should we say, tie up the loose ends within that topic and fully explore a certain topic. I'm not writing, if I wanted to just like churn shit out, I could be like 10 ways to make women want to suck your cock, 15 ways to gain more confidence as a man, 20 ways to, no, I just don't care about this shit. Now, if I could do that more often, would it make more money? Yes. But you also make a good point. It is possible to have good content and to be good at monetizing it. And all I can say to you in response to that is that is like mastery. If you can make very good content, if you can not sacrifice the content, but you can also monetize it really fucking well, you are like a master. Like you have a fucking money printer, and it's a sustainable money printer, because you're not a scammer, you're not a bullshitter, you're not appealing to like average or slightly below average IQ people with these stupid, corny 10 ways to fucking do this bullshit, but you're actually trying to fully explore a topic, and then you're finding a way with integrity to monetize that and doing so successfully. To me, that is like the god level. That's like the mastery. And I can't actually think of a single example of anybody who has achieved that, who has like 99th percentile tier content and amazing. Maybe Jordan Peterson, he's probably the closest example of that. Someone who has really deep intellectual and useful, not just like completely like random, like super abstract, not super abstract bullshit, but like relevant, useful knowledge that helps people, but that isn't super corny, but it's also marketed well, that he makes money from. He's probably the closest. I might be wrong, but yeah.
I'll give you and all the other readers some context on why a lot of websites publish the whole 10 ways to be more attractive to women type
SEO.
article. Yeah, it's just that, let's say you write 50 good articles, but then you look at your site traffic and no one's reading it. So you go to SEMrush, you
Well,
find what people are searching for, And then, okay, people are searching for how
People
to
are
be more
lame.
attractive to women. Then you write one article, and you find that people will be attracted to that article because it's so clickbaity, and
Yeah.
then they will start a percentage of them will start reading the real articles on your site.
See, I,
So I
I
think
just see, I just see, I just have an inherent attitude problem with that. I just refuse to cater. Like maybe it seems irrational to you, but I'm just like, oh, wait, are you some loser searching for 10 reasons that I don't want you? Then go away. like, like my whole thing is I will have my weird titles that are not SEO compatible, and the weirdos will find that, and then they will read that, and then they will spread it to who they need to spread it to. And will that make it super popular? No, but will it make it significant enough to have an impact and then be useful without sacrificing my own integrity? I should think so. That's my kind of thinking on it. Like
serious question though. Why
yeah,
do you
go on.
consider them losers in the sense? I think someone trying to better their life, right? They're trying to, okay,
Oh,
let's say
okay,
someone that sucks with women, they're
yes,
trying to find out information how to be more attractive to women, or someone who
nothing wrong
can't
with that.
lift a decent amount of weight, like how do I lift more weights? I wouldn't exactly call them losers. At least that's not
No,
how
no.
I think of
Okay,
losers.
so it's okay. I'll explain that. So it's not wanting. I don't think wanting to better yourself makes you a loser. I think saying 10 ways to like that. It's more the formulation. It's how you're constructing your question. It tells me that you're a simple person. Quite like I would never type in Google 10 ways to make a woman more attracted to me. To me, that's like something someone very desperate and not very bright would type in into Google or ChatGPT doesn't affect SEO, but like if you're typing that shit into a computer because you want help, you're probably not a very intelligent person. You know.
You know, now that you mentioned ChatGPT, it's
Mm,
very funny. So my wife, right? She
mm,
isn't from like a very cityish background. She's from a village,
mm,
so she
mm,
isn't very she isn't very used to using Google.
mm,
She knew how to use Google, but I introduced her to Chat GPT now, and
mm,
she uses Chat GPT as a search engine. So she never uses Google anymore, and she just uses Chat GPT. And the answer, I asked her why she does it, and
mm.
she's like, it just gives me a straight answer. I want
It
to find
does.
out how
Yes.
long do I need to boil an egg, so it
She's.
becomes
I
hard
agree.
boiled.
I agree with your wife. Basically, I right. We will drill into this. ChatGPT gives you a straight fucking answer. It tells you exactly. Is it always correct and accurate about everything? No, it can lie to you and it can be inaccurate, but relative to Google, it's superior and it gives you a more granular, specific answer that you're precisely looking for. Whereas Google feeds you a bunch of bullshit results about a bunch of bullshit things that are tangentially related to what you asked, but aren't what you asked and don't answer your question. And why does Google do that when ChatGPT doesn't do that? And I will tell you the reason Google does that, because Google is based on popularity. And popularity means most common, and most common means kind of retarded. That's putting it simply. Whereas
You know, go on.
ChatGPT doesn't care about popularity. ChatGPT is like using pattern recognition in an autistic way to answer your question as logically as it can, based upon its data set, based upon its neural network and all the shit previously learned, and then giving you as a coherent answer as possible. So if you actually want a high value answer to a question, ChatGPT is superior to Google. That's if you want a high value answer. If you want to know what's popular, what most people are thinking of, like where the culture is at or whatever, use Google. If you actually want a high quality answer to something to truly get at the thing, use ChatGPT. And Google used to give high value answers, but now too many idiots use that, and they trained the algorithm into being an idiot. And that means what is most popular is the highest rated, and what is most popular is generally, sometimes it's correct, but more often than not, it's some dumb shit.
Google has gone crazy in the last few years where they're really favoring all these big sites. So you could write like a very good article that's much better than say a site written by a big website, an article written by a big site, and Google will only show the big site. And that's bullshit, because
I know.
now you search for anything. You want to see, okay, toaster review. It's some tech gizmo or some big ass site. And 99% of the time, they haven't even used that toaster. They're just mixing up reviews from Amazon and then using Chat GPT to create a review, and then using the key phrases, our experts tested and things like that, just to make it show up as the first link. And Google is just playing along with that. So as an
Right.
independent smaller site, it's very difficult to rank on Google nowadays. I mean, Life Math Money ranks on Google for the simple reason that no one else is writing about the topics I write about. No one's publishing articles talking about how to know if a girl is a virgin or not. So I don't have
Really?
competition.
He's no more writing about that shit. Oh my god.
But for
Wait, did you,
a
wait, did you,
regular site,
wait,
it's
did
very
you,
difficult to
hang on,
rank.
mate, did you, if, I must have missed that one. You wrote an article on that shit. I want to read that. I just want to see your reasoning on what you said. Actually,
Okay, so
I think I might have read
listen,
that, but forgotten about it. Yeah, sorry, go on, man.
that the way to do that, the way to know if a girl is a virgin, is
Mm,
in an arranged marriage context, right? You're gonna get a few meetings with a girl. What you want to do is you want to not seem like the typical judgmental Indian guy who's like very judgy and preachy. You want to seem like the modern, who you want to seem like the modern guy who would be
bit
cool
gay,
with a girl's dating
gay.
experience.
Just
So
be a
you
bit,
gotta be
little bit gay.
appear non-judgmental,
Yeah,
and
a
then you
little
want
bit
to talk
gay.
about your own experiences. Hey, so I was going out with that girl, etc., etc. And girls are very chatty, so they'll start telling you about their experiences, assuming they feel comfortable and non-judged. If you make them feel like you're gonna judge them, then the game is over. Then she's gonna start.
I think I see. I think within a Desi context, this is actually very good. You see what I know of Desi men, right? Is that they are very super judgmental of women, and if so this will make the woman more defensive and more likely to lie. So what you're saying is, just seem like you're not one of the typical Indian man, and you're just I'm kind of cool with that. I've known some girls, yada yada. And then you are more likely to get the truth from them. Yeah, yeah, that makes sense as a strategy. Sure, that makes sense. That's funny. It's funny though. The thing is, as a man, right? As a man, if you have experience with women, you have a frame of reference, right? So there are multiple women in your past with different personalities, with different levels of, shall we say, psychological and emotional damage. Some who had none, some who had little, some who had a lot, some who were problematic and stressful, others who were easy. You have all that frame of reference to compare against whatever woman you're dealing with now, and that forms patterns in your head. And then when you're talking to her and you're dealing with her, you can know inherently based upon that what her likelihood or probability of being pure or innocent or quote unquote a virgin is. Do you know what I mean? Like, you won't know 100%, but you will. There are certain behavior. Like, if a woman is incredibly arrogant and narcissistic, she could be a virgin. But even if she was a virgin, purely because she's a narcissistic piece of shit, she's already spiritually, emotionally just ugly. Like, why would you bother anyway? But that's the best case scenario. Point being is that women of a certain disposition tend to reveal their experience inadvertently. Like, got someone who's like super opinionated, she's like super resentful. Could she be a virgin? Sure, she could be. She probably just hates her dad. And now you're gonna have to fucking deal with that shit. She's gonna put that on you because all the issues she has with her dad are issues she has with men. And guess what? You're a man and you're the closest thing to her dad without being her dad, because like her dad, you're an authority in her life. Right? So that shit gets put on you.
It's very important to have actual experience with women, before you
Hmm.
marry. Because I know a bunch of guys who got married to women before dating any other woman in the past,
Yeah.
and
Oh
they
fuck!
made the
I bet they are
that's
so
insane.
fucked.
It's like, if
See,
you've
we need. So
never
basically, you're saying we need whores, we need hoes, because men, we have a use case for hoes, right? We don't need to marry the hose, but we need the hose to get the experience, so we know what the hose look like on an emotional, psychological level. So we know, and now we know what a hoe is on an intimate, metaphysical level through our experience. We know what not to be with when we get married.
Yeah, moreover, you just understand the type of woman you actually want to live with, because marrying a woman is more than just virginity and
Mm, mm,
whether she's a hoe or not. I'll give you
mm,
an example. Okay, like I
mm,
dated a woman who was extremely boring. I mean, if you go by the Twitter standards, right, then she was a really good woman. She kept her
mm.
mouth shut, didn't bother anybody, did what she was told to do, etc., etc. But she was just so
Wonderful.
boring that it was just not fun around her. Like, you want to go trekking? No, I don't want to go trekking. You want to go do this? No, I don't want to go do this. I just want to sit at home and watch TV. Like, shut the fuck up. Like, what am I even gonna do?
Wait,
So
I'm assuming she, like, if you tell her like a really dark, perverted joke, I'm guessing she doesn't find that funny as well. Like, what about sense of humor?
she was humorous. What I mean to say is that she wasn't into like my personality. I
Mm,
like going out. I like doing things. I like trekking. I like, going out to a restaurant. I like being outside. I like going to the gym. So for me, a partner who would be sitting at home all day and, the type of person who climbs a mountain and then says, "Why did we do all this work? There's nothing here," is not right for me. So you learn all that stuff by dating.
yeah, true. You do, you do. See,
And
I'm going to defend the introverted girls right now. Introverted girls are less likely to cheat on you because they don't want to deal with other people and they don't want to leave the
yeah, but
house.
no woman is going to cheat on me. That's the point, right?
I don't need to work. You don't know I am, okay, but I am a very serious person in India, okay, and the mafia are my friends, and
No, it's
no,
just that,
no woman. Sorry.
if you were to do like a analysis of the type of guys who get cheated on, right? I would
Mm,
say like a good portion of them get cheated on because they're married to a woman who was in love with a different man. For
yes.
example, like she was she was fucking some other guy, and then her parents forced her to get married to you. That's one scenario. Another scenario is when you're like really unhealthy looking, you're fat, and you're not just sexually exciting enough for a woman. You're just like too boring, and then some fit guy comes along and she's turned on by him. That's another
The
scenario.
pool,
The third
as
scenario
they
is
say,
that you're boring as fuck. I don't have any of those issues, so I'm
as they
not
say in
worried
American
about.
culture, the pool boy. You heard of that shit? The pool boy.
Nope. Tell
So
me.
it's I think it's like a guy who like looks after the swimming pool or some shit, and it's usually some like muscular looking motherfucker. And whilst you're away at work and she's at home and he's like taking care of the pool, and then one thing leads to another, and he like fucks her. I don't know, some weird shit like that. But like it's kind of like the personal trainer, you know? You have some like fat fucking slob who like dick doesn't work, and she's going to the gym and she has a personal trainer and he's like jacked and he's hitting on her. You know, it's like women are very easily influenced by that environment. It's like you have to think about where you are leaving your woman. It's like, would you leave your wallet there? And if the answer is no, you probably shouldn't leave your woman there, right? So if you wouldn't
Mm.
leave your wallet in a bad neighborhood, don't leave your woman in a bad neighborhood. If you couldn't trust a certain type of man, say personal trainer, pool boy, whatever the fuck, with your wallet to not steal from it, don't leave your woman with him. You know, because and they don't even need to really they don't need to plan it. It quote unquote just happens. Quite just happens. And why does it just happen? Because of natural attraction, right? So, and the thing is, you can feel naturally, you can feel strong attraction for other people who are not your spouse when you are married. That doesn't mean you like your spouse less. It just means this other person has some very attractive qualities. So it's like, okay, so how do you deal with that? Are you going to act upon it, or are you going to not act upon it? And the thing is, with women, it's like, do you want to give them that choice or that
Yeah,
option,
the
or do you,
self-growth factor is typically
or,
not their strong suit.
or you know that there's a saying that what is it? Prevention is worth 10. 1 ounce of prevention is worth 10 ounces of cure. So it's like, instead of spending all this effort to deal with the cleanup, just don't let it happen in the first place. Just anticipate, look ahead, think, blah, blah, blah. How could this, what threat could that be? Okay, we won't do that. Why will we not do that? Because it could potentially lead to this. Yeah, but it may not lead to this. Yeah, but it may lead to that. And we don't want it to lead to that. So therefore, we won't allow that to even transpire, or we won't allow for the probability. We won't allow for the potential. I'm not saying it definitely will happen. What I am saying is I will not allow it
We
to
won't
be
risk it.
yes, won't risk it. I will not allow it to be a potential.
I will say that your view is kind of colored by the fact that you live in a Western country where
Trust me, they hate
women
me. They
tend to
hate
be
me.
more.
They hate me so much, man. They hate me. They think they're like, oh, you're controlling. It's like, yes, very controlling. What's wrong with that? You want a man who's
No,
not
what I mean to
controlling?
say is that women need to be controlled more,
Of course they do.
in the sense that a Western woman is far more likely to cheat than, say, I would say, an Indian woman or a more cultural country
No, you
woman.
know why?
For
Do
the
you
simple
know?
reason that
Hang
it's
on.
more
Let me tell.
common in those countries.
Let me tell you something funny. The reason a Western woman is more likely to cheat than an Indian woman is because an Indian woman has been controlled enough all her life to the point she can control herself, whereas a Western woman has not been controlled enough all her life to the point she can't control herself, so she actually needs more control. Do you see it?
Like the spoiled child thing, right? The spoiled child can't be left with the candy.
But basically, okay, let me put it another way. If your father did not do a good job of teaching you to not be an idiot as a woman, you will be more of an idiot, which means whatever man, husband, boyfriend, whatever, that you romantically dealing with, he has a harder job. He has to set the rules and teach you the things your father never taught you. And the only reason you will go along with that and agree with it and obey it and whatever is because you like him, you love him, you want his approval, validation, blah, blah, blah. He is in an influential position, but you did not receive this training as a young girl, as a child. Indian women, if we are going to generalize, are more likely to have received that training from their father as a young child. So when the husband does it, it's just a continuation of what the father did, right? But in Western culture, when the quote unquote boyfriend or husband does it, it's like a whole new thing. Father never taught them that.
Yeah, they're not used to it, right? If you're not used to something and suddenly you get that restriction, then you're like, hey, what the fuck?
There's things they're not used to it, but they like it, and they don't understand why they like it, and sometimes it makes them uncomfortable that they like it, and they only like it because what you got to remember is women everywhere are attracted to male domination. Any woman who is a true woman, who's truly feminine, she doesn't want to make all the hard decisions. She doesn't want to have to protect herself. She wants a quote unquote leader, right? So would a leader never not tell you what to do, and is telling you what to do, controlling you? And if it is, if that's bad, why do you want a leader if being told what to do is bad? Answer me that. They can't answer you that because they never, the steps in their thinking never goes that far ahead. They don't even understand themselves. They're fucking idiots. They're complete idiots. It's sad. It's also really sad, by the way, because even though I laugh about it, it's also one of the reasons behind the population decline, why we don't have enough children, because we have a conflict between women's natures and what women are taught. Their nature is I want a strong man to take care of me, and I want to just basically be his little bitch. That's their nature. And then what they're taught is you can't be some man's little bitch. That's like pathetic, blah blah blah. You need to like be strong, independent, make your own money, blah 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 blah. You're like abused if you ever want to give into your own true instincts, blah blah blah. So the women are like super like socially engineered and psyoped and confused. And that's why they don't have enough fucking children. They go pursue some fucking degree, get into like a bunch of debt unless they come from a rich family, in which case daddy's just wasted tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of pounds or dollars on your stupid education, which you're never actually going to make the full value back from through your productive labor. And then what? Then you may have a couple of children in your 30s, or you may have none. And then you just complain about men, and then you just get banged out by sociopathic men who don't give a shit about you. And then you say all men are like that. It's just like the whole thing is just fucking disgustingly ugly. Like Western. Like this is what I saying. This is what I'm saying to you. This is why you don't copy Westerners now. You copy Westerners from over 100 years ago, because what we have now is post decline. You're It's like, oh, Westerners are rich. They're like, it's like prestigious, whatever. Well, if we do the things we do, we will be as successful as them. But what you're copying is how they are after they succeeded, not copying what they did to succeed before they succeeded. Right?
Copying the drunk prince who inherits the kingdom and ruins it. Type of
Yes, yes. Don't copy the drunk prince who inherited the kingdom. Copy his father,
who built it.
the king who built that shit like 60 years ago or 70 years or whatever the fuck. Copy that guy. Don't copy his stupid fucking, inheriting little boy fucking prince, which is
You
what the
know,
West is now. This is what I say. And I think it's very sad when countries that never got rich are importing Western policies, because at least before we got rich, we weren't that retarded. Like when Westerners weren't rich, like when Westerners were still doing their conquering and inventing and all that shit. Like, dude, like my grandparents, right? It was like, like this is like born in like the 1930s, 1940s, right? They don't believe in any of the shit Westerners believe in now. They believe in traditional gender roles. That's normal for them. That's like 90 years ago, you know?
your grandparents are homophobic. I am. Come on.
Oh, no, they are. They do. They are. They hate gays. My granddad's kind of a racist. My grandma likes misogynistic men. I mean, come on, like what can I say? All the guilt and moral crimes are there.
Going back to the topic of declining populations, I'm
Mm,
not fully convinced it's just the whole female nature thing. I think it has a
mm.
lot to do with money and culture, in the
Economics.
sense that here in India, a lot of
Mm,
educated people don't have kids or have like one kid. The more highly educated you are, the less likely you will have kids. And the
mm,
reason is that the perception that, hey, kids are a lot of work. Oh, if I have kids, I'm going to be wasting my money on the kid and I have to wake up early, send them to school. Instead, I could just travel and have fun and what have you. I think there's like
This,
there's a saying that a country prospers when old men plant seeds, knowing fully well that they will never sit under the shade of the trees that
yes,
grow
I
from
love
them.
that. I think that's a Chinese, might be Chinese. But yeah, no, I've had that before. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, but these guys are like, fuck planting seeds. We're just gonna eat some kind of
Yeah,
seed
fucking
dip,
boomers. Yeah,
have
fuck.
extra calories to have fun.
Yeah, boomers are just really bad stewards of civilization. They're individualistic to the point of parasitism. Obviously, there are some good boomers. Not all boomers are bad. Blah blah blah. Gonna say that for the base boomers that might listen to this, who are cool and they have some like ridiculous fucking son or grandson, even though they tried their best. Yada yada yada. Okay, sorry, that's bad for you. Whatever. But in general, in terms of boomers as a group, as a population, as stewards of Western civilization, who literally played on easy mode, even though they didn't have today's technology. They still like this is what makes me laugh. They're like, oh, we didn't have all the things you have today. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have phones. We didn't have like video games. We didn't have iPads. It's like, yeah, but you know what? You did have a virgin wife at 21 and a fucking house and a car based off your stupid blue collar job that paid like basic wage. That's what you had.
And
You,
didn't have
you
microplastics in your blood that
yes,
we
and
have
and you
now
and
because of you.
yes, and you want a low T little bitch because the whole fucking food supply was polluted with endocrine disruptors.
Man, I'm telling you, that was the worst thing the past generations did just to make a profit was all these plastics and pollutants everywhere in our
Mm.
blood and our food. I mean, come on, man. Like that's bullshit, right? You don't need that much money that you gotta put microplastics in everything.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to make a really if you want to make the most generous argument in favor of that possible, you would say it was most important to ensure there was enough calories available for everybody by all means necessary, which means lowering the quality of the food so there's more of it, so there's enough to eat for everyone, so there's enough calories. So basically, making sure there's enough calories for a large population is primary priority, right? And that comes at the sacrifice of nutritional quality. So sufficient calories and sufficient nutrition are not equivalent. So what we used to have was higher quality nutrition but less food, and now we have more food but lower quality nutrition. So now if you want high quality nutrition, you have to pay extra. You have, like, I don't know how it is in India, but you know, you have probably lots of farmers in like rural places, and you can pick shit up for like next to like a couple of rupees or something, next to nothing. But like in the West, if you go to a farmer, I mean, you're paying some interesting prices for your produce. let's put it that
India
way.
is worse. India is as bad as it comes when it comes to food quality, where the food has pesticides and all sorts of weird fertilizers. And you have chicken legs, right? I'm telling you, Indian chickens can squat 500 kilos. The legs are that big. So I don't know what they're putting in it, but the legs are way too big for it to make sense.
So this will piss off any short man listening. Short dudes are amazing at squats. I'm bad at deadlifts. See, right, here's the thing. Yeah, I'm going to give a little Machiavellian mind trick for any weird woman listening who will ever listen to this. Right, if you want to know how tall a guy is, ask him what is easier for him, squat or deadlift. If he says squat, he's short. If he says deadlift, he's tall. Because if you are short, squats are easier because you don't have as far to go down, right? And if you are tall, deadlifts are easier. Why? I actually don't know why. They just are. I've talked to
No,
many
your
tall guys.
arms are longer, so you don't have to.
You got like
Have.
longer, yeah. You got like longer limbs or whatever. Yeah, like so. If you want to be a really cunning woman, I don't know why I'm like helping the woman. This whatever, but just ask him squat. Like basically, if squat is his hardest left, he's probably tall. If deadlift
I
is
think
his
there's
hardest
more
left, he's
to this
probably
stuff
short.
because if you have like longer tibias and short shins, it has more to do with your specific ratios than just your height.
Right, but I've never met a tall guy who finds squat is easiest fucking lift. But yeah, and also, or I mean, this is just my limited sample. Okay, so let's assume I'm wrong and ignorant and just talking nonsense, which is highly possible. Okay, but you know, all the guys I know who are tall find deadlift very easy, including myself. Deadlift to me is not hard. It's like not hard to me. Squat is really hard. Like I feel I have to try really hard on a squat. I feel the burn, yada yada. Deadlift, no. Deadlift, I can just pick that shit up, bring it to my waist, put it down, pick it up, put it down, pick it up, put it down. Easy. But for short guys, it seems to be the reverse. They can do the squat easy, but the deadlift, I don't know why. It doesn't make any sense to me, but it seems to be that's what the pattern recognition is telling me. If anybody has any theories on that, that would be very interesting.
How do you define tall and short? So I'm 6 feet tall, right? I'm 182 centimeters, so yeah, rough
Oh,
6 feet.
Total manlet. If you're less than 7'5", no. So for
No,
for
but I
for
don't
an
deadlift anymore. Like I have stopped deadlifting at least for some time because I just keep getting injured. Like, every 6 months I
really,
injure my back. I'm like,
well, from
fuck this.
wait, were you doing it? Were you doing it like really fast or?
No, I was doing it correctly. The thing is that I have like a spine thing going on where there's like a certain section of my spine,
Mm,
and every time I put it above a certain load, it just
mhm,
shifts for a second and then injures me. And it happens every 6 months. I'm just really tired of it.
yeah.
And now I'm like, fuck it. Any muscle I'm gonna train, right? I
Mm,
can train it better on a different exercise than the deadlifts. So
mm.
for now, I'm not deadlifting anymore just because of the fact that I keep getting injured over and over again. And it's just way too annoying, man. It's
No,
just
that's fair. That's
really,
fair.
really annoying.
If a specific exercise is prone to cause a recurring injury, then yeah, fuck it.
Yeah,
Personally, I
that
love
doesn't
deadlifts.
even
You
happen
know,
on like heavy weights. Like 160 kilos, I'll get injured. It's not even that heavy.
to counter what you said, right? When I've had like lower back pain in the past, deadlifts have cured all
I
back.
know, I know. So
They're
I bought
amazing
into
for
the
that.
whole starting strength philosophy, and yeah, they
Well,
do fix
crypto,
it.
yeah.
It's just that now that it's healed and now that it's fixed, I'm like, why would I fuck with it again? I'm happy doing my rows and lat pull
I
downs
mean,
for my back.
the thing is, deadlifts is one of the main free lifts, and it doesn't fuck most people's spine. I don't know why it's fucking your spine. If it's not your form, Maybe it's something inherent to your physiology. I don't know. I'm
I have
just
like a curved spine. Like it's not like
uh
you can see it. It's not exactly straight. Like most
yeah,
people have a straight spine, right?
yeah.
Mine shifts to the right.
So that may be why that exercise is not good for you. So like for me, I prefer to do like cycling as opposed to like sprinting because I'm prone to tendonitis in my ankles. I'm inherently like prone to that for no reason. I'm just prone to it. So I have to do low impact cardio because if I do high impact, my ankles will start fucking giving me pain, and then it hurts too much, and then I can't exercise. Right. So I have to say, but if you do cycling, when you do cycling, your foot doesn't hit the ground; it just goes in a circular motion, but you still get the heart pumping, right? Or it's the same with swimming. Your foot is not it's not hitting something solid; it's just hitting the water.
You don't get the hammer attack on your knees and legs.
No,
I know what you mean.
no.
You know what's really funny is that I went on a hike, and
Mm,
this was like a Himalayan hike, and there was this guy who was like, "I'm the best." I'm like, he was trying to do the entire trek while running, in the sense that the guy would literally run and climb the mountain up,
mm.
and the guy, nothing happened to him. So everybody was predicting, okay, this guy's gonna get injured. This guy's gonna get fuck himself up, and literally nothing happened to him. He's running the entire track. I'm not even joking. He's jumping. Like, so there are these boulders, and he's jumping from one boulder to the other, and there's like a meter and a half gap between the boulders. And if you fall like 300 feet.
Mm,
And I'm telling you, some guys they can do anything and not get injured. While me, if I deadlift, even if I have like even slightly bad form, I get injured.
mm. Yeah, I mean, I guess, I mean, yeah, I guess the gods smile uh, more kindly upon some than others. They like, it's like how some guys could eat tons of bullshit, they never get fat. One guy eats one cake too much. Oh, now he's overweight. Like fucking. Some people have to make a big effort to just fucking be good, and other people they don't. And it's like the rules are not basically the lesson is the rules are not the same for everyone. The rules you follow and the rules I follow are not the same rules, even though there are many rules that we must both follow and both share. And why? But why are the rules that we both don't like? Why are there rules that don't apply to both of us? And the reason is simple: different biology. Your body can deal with shit my body can't, and my body can deal with shit your body can't. It's that simple. So it's like, we can like be like envious of people who fucking can just be retards and nothing bad happens to them. It's like, it's just genetics. What are you gonna do? Other than genetically engineer yourself to have the same advantage, which isn't
Yeah, using
really.
CRISPR.
Yeah. So you see, everyone's like, oh, like equality, blah blah blah. I'm telling, and oh, IQ is fake, blah 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 blah. Yeah, okay. So IQ is fake. Yeah, nonsense. It's all fake bullshit. Stupid test doesn't mean anything. Okay, so this this scientist, this researcher, fertility doctor, whatever, is coming to you and he's saying to you, your child IQ is fake, but your child can have 90 IQ or 140 IQ. Now, the IQ is fake. Which one do you want? All the motherfuckers choosing 140 over 90, even though it's fake. Even though it's fake. It's fake, right? Bullshit. Doesn't mean anything. Stupid test, blah, blah, whatever. They all choose the big number, right? And here's the thing. They're all choosing the big number, and all their children will be better off for having that big number than the low number. This is what CRISPR, if it ever is marketed and like widely available, this is what it will produce. Like designer babies, people will design their children. Just think now, like in terms of like sperm banks, like Western women, when they go to sperm banks, they want the donor of the sperm usually to be tall, to have blue eyes, and to make at least $100,000 a year and in a good profession. So this is like eugenics in terms of we will only allow men of a certain genetic quality to donate their sperm to this clinic to be used to inseminate women who want to have a child without a man. which I don't actually agree with as a social practice. That's a completely different fucking discussion or topic altogether. But in a purely eugenic context, these women who do this like IVF and shit, and they get sperm donors rather than use their partner, right? They are practicing eugenics, and they are choosing men with certain specific genetic qualities, high earning potential, tall, good looking. That's what they want. And it will be the
I think
same with
women
CRISPR.
are always practicing eugenics. If they can, if things are left up to them,
The
they're
only
always
the
practicing
only way
genetics.
they don't strategize, you are correct. The only way they don't strategize with eugenics is if you head fuck them into adoring you despite your crappy genetics. But yes, generally, like it's like Patrice O'Neill. I don't know if you know him. If you remember him, he's a black guy. He's fat. Yeah, he's genetically. To look at him, you wouldn't think, oh, this is like some great specimen. But he had some money. He had some success. He had good sense of humor and character, and he wasn't a little bitch and whatever. And he could get women. So it's like unless you can like hijack a woman's fucking desires through sheer force of personality, yes, it will always come down to genetic quality, which is how good it like are you good at making money? Yes or no? Not good at making
I
money,
think
really bad genetics.
I would disagree with that. I think that
Mm.
women don't prioritize money as much as they prioritize excitement, in the sense that
I agree with you. Yeah. I can see.
money is like a secondary concern. If you, in the sense that a woman wants you to make enough money to survive,
Also
but they don't
depends
really care if you're like really rich. They
al-
if you're more exciting, they pick you. Because
also
when I was
depends on
broke as
age.
fuck,
Also
I could
depends on
still
age.
get it.
Depends on it.
Go on.
If you're talking about 20s women, I completely agree with you. See,
Yeah, but
young
women above their 20s aren't participating in eugenics, right? Because they're like infertile.
well, they're not practicing on eugenics on their side, but they are practicing eugenics on your side. So obviously, it's not very eugenic for an older woman to be having a geriatric pregnancy. A woman who's 36 to be trying for a child, she's obviously not going to have the best egg quality in the yada yada. Doesn't mean she's not trying for the best sperm quality she can find.
No, she is trying, but she's not having an effect because let's say for every 20 babies that are born, right? Maybe one is born to a woman above 35, maybe
Mm.
even less. So for all they're trying, they're not actually impacting the outcome. The
Mm.
outcome is mostly being impacted by whatever the women in their 20s are choosing. And I think that women, when it comes to marriage, right, they might prefer a boring guy. But if things were just left to them, like historically, go back to the times where marriage was not a thing, it was more about how exciting and how
Yeah.
how much
Yeah.
more animalistic desire you could evoke, not about
Yes.
you know how mathematically smart you were, how not
No, of
like you were a
course.
nerd, you were not gonna get laid.
No, of course. And I've said this before. I was like, if women valued intelligence as much as they valued dominance, nerds would get tons of pussy, and they don't because women
They
don't
don't,
value
they
that.
really don't.
No, but women are not honest. They say, "Oh, I want an intelligent man." It's like, okay, maybe as like your fifth priority, you want a man who isn't an idiot. And when a woman says, "I want a man who's smart," what does she really mean? She wants a man who knows how to lead. She wants a man who's good at making money. She wants a man she doesn't have to be responsible for, who doesn't lean on her. It means a bunch of different things, right? But it's not really her visceral primal priority. Her visceral attraction is what you say. Is he exciting? Can he play with her emotions? That's really what she's going for. Most women are not honest enough or self-aware enough to say, you know what, I just want a guy who can head fuck me a bit, who can like ignore me and then make me feel like he's I'm his little girl and he's my daddy and he can make me feel cute and and then he can make me jealous and most women are they're not that honest and they're number one they're not that self-aware enough to realize that and number two if they are self-aware enough to realize that to be honest enough to communicate it. I mean, so that's why like they're never gonna fucking tell. They're never gonna tell you, and this is why we always say, don't listen to what women say. Watch what they fucking do. Because if you listen to what women say, you are presuming women understand women. A woman do understand women, but only in a very insecure, manipulative way, not in a what do I look for in men? Women are notoriously bad at understanding men. Like women are like, oh, we are emotionally intelligent, blah blah blah, but they don't understand male psychology at all. The number of women I've spoken to who don't understand male psychology, these are like not low IQ women either, like women with good IQ. I tell them things about male psychology is like revelation to them. Ridiculous. If they don't understand shit. It's funny. It's
You know
like,
what you just said about the fact that you gotta focus on what they do and not what they say. That is
mhm,
100% true, isn't it? Because you have all these guys who complain about, women only go for the jerks. They don't want to go with me. I'm the nice, sweet guy they always talk about.
mhm,
But
mhm,
come on, man, like just open your eyes, see what they're actually going for, and then you'll have a better idea. Although I will say, this is personally just my opinion. I'm gonna say most of Twitter is gonna disagree with me. I
mhm.
think that you should not be a jerk just to get women, in the sense that I think you
Yeah.
should be yourself, have a fun life, be a good person, but I mean, don't be boring. Don't
Basically,
be a jerk just to get women, because that's like, you're living for sex. That's what you're living for if you're
yeah.
doing that.
Be a jerk because because you want to be a
If
jerk.
you want to be a jerk, be a jerk, but don't do it for women.
Yes, 100% agree with you. You know, I'm actually I made a tweet on this very like yes last night within the last
Is it
24
kind of
hours
happening?
about this. Yes, about how men excuse me, sorry, how men orientate themselves around women, like how they try to be the nice guy because they think that's what women want, and then they try to be the asshole because they think that's what women want. And it's like, how about you stop caring about what women want and stop making that the primary thing with which you define yourself by, and define yourself by what you think is the best thing to be inherently.
I think you turned your microphone off there.
Yeah, I had to because I was sneezing again.
If I was to make a list, like at least from my experience, right, like what would actually, at least what worked for me
Mhm.
really well, without me having to basically redivert my life into chasing women, is essentially just doing the things I like doing, being exciting,
Yeah,
and you know
just be selfish. What do I like? Do what I
what
like.
I like doing.
Do
For example, right, if I want to go on a date, it's not gonna be at a restaurant, right? I like playing badminton. Okay, come play
yeah.
badminton.
What man is like? A restaurant is my favorite place to be. Is it like no? It's not cool. Like, do you like food? Sure, but restaurant is like a whole fucking. It's like a little social ritual, isn't it? I'll dress nice. You dress nice. We'll go along. We'll eat some expensive food. We'll try to
Yeah, the
have a
thing is that it just
conversation.
makes you fat. If you usually have like Bumble, so I used to be
I
fat,
want to
now
see you
we're
in
like
I want to see you in a restaurant with a girl, and you say, "You know, I brought you here, but this is gonna make you fat."
it destroys the diet because you're going on like 4 dates, 3 dates a week,
I like you
and
right now, but if we keep doing this, I'm gonna make you fat. Then I'm not gonna like you.
so in my opinion, I think the best way is just to like do live your life well. I like barbecuing food, so we have barbecues every week. I'll just invite you to the barbecue, you can come. Typically, if you have a fun life, women don't want to leave you. Like women really don't want to leave you because women are really, really boring in their own
they are.
lives.
They're so.
So
Women are really boring. It's true. Yeah.
if they can have fun by just being around you, they will not want to leave.
The women that aren't boring are usually not boring in a super toxic way. Like they have to make some like bullshit psychological issue. You know, like being not boring without being some psychological weirdo with a problem.
If have you ever watched these sitcoms like Friends or How I Met Your Mother or one of these like popular
Long,
sitcoms? Have you?
long time ago. Yes, long time ago.
I think those sitcoms have kind of ruined popular culture in the sense that people nowadays, right, when they think of a happening life, they think of a
Mm,
life like a sitcom where happening no longer means you're making money or you're having like you have a good body, you're lifting weights, you're having fun, you're doing exciting shit.
mm.
Nowadays, happening means you go to a coffee shop with five people and you talk about life and you talk about relationships. It's like a huge psyop, right? Like if you want to waste someone's time, you'll get them to spend time on relationships where you're having arguments with a chick. That's like the
I
worst
hate
way to
arguing.
spend your
I
20s.
hate you know I hate arguing with a woman. You know why? When I argue with a woman, I feel like I failed myself as a man because I have the wisdom to know arguing with a woman is a foolish endeavor. Like it's not something. If you are in your right mind and you are clever and you are thinking, and you are planning and you are scheming, you would never endeavor to argue with a woman. So if you find yourself in an argument with a woman, is you kind of failed yourself because the thing is, right? People will say, "Oh, wow, if you are married or you are in serious relationship, you need to discuss some serious things with your wife, and you may disagree." And it's like, yes, that's true, but you can disagree without arguing. We can have discussion. Like for example, me and you have disagreed on a few things, like today, but it's not an argument. It's just difference in opinion. Like I don't hate you because you didn't agree 100% of what I said, and you don't hate me because I didn't agree with 100% what you said. An argument is like, oh, like we have a big problem because this thing here we don't have consensus. So now we need to like bully one another until one loses, so they will submit, and now that wins. And it's like if you like arguing with a woman is kind of like giving her opinion too much strength, too much credibility. It's like I kind of feel like I've been a little bitch of an argument. Like I've allowed my emotions to overcome me. I've been pulled into her nonsense. I've let her pull me into her nonsense, and now we're talking about some stupid fucking shit, and I'm just being emotionally out of control because I've allowed myself to be dragged in. Like that's how I think of an argument with a woman. Now that is separate from a discussion in which we disagree, and we have a productive discussion in which we disagree, and then we try to come to a rational, practical conclusion. Well, okay, so you think this and I think that, and we want this. So what is the compromise? How will we achieve that? To me, to me that's cooperation. That's not an argument. Even if there's not all this, what I'm saying is not all disagreement is an argument. You can disagree. I think the best wife, the best woman will disagree with you, but not argue with you because she won't disrespect you as a man. But the shitty woman, they'll piss on you or disrespect you. You're not a real man. Yeah, you'd agree with me if you were a real man. Yeah. Fuck that. I don't want to deal with that shit. Go be fucking single and have some simp fucking husband or no husband. Like I don't want to deal with you. I will not make you my problem. You're not worth being my problem. If you want to be my problem, you need to show that you can compromise and that you can suspend your stupid female hormones to be rational enough to cooperate with me on that level. And if you can't, fuck you. That's quite simply how I feel about it.
It's typically impossible to argue with a woman logically in an emotionally charged situation because they typically say things like, it wasn't what you said, it was your tone, it was how you said it. So it's really about the emotion they felt and not about the actual
Yeah,
logical
not the
matter of what
substance.
you said. So you have to just manipulate their emotion to make them feel better
Yes.
about it, not like there's no fact you can give them to change your mind, which is very different with men. Like I can change your mind about something with facts and logic, but if a woman is like saying, "No, it was not what you said," it's like it's because you said it to me in an angry tone. Why would you?
You see, I was not angry because I hate you. I'm angry because I'm horny. I'm sorry. I just wanted to sleep with you. You need to be like emotionally manipulative, which they like. Because if we try to be autistic and say, well, the reason I said that is because blah, 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 they don't fucking care about that, It doesn't work. I'm
It's like
sorry, I was
arguing
angry. I
with
was just horny. I'm so sorry. Sorry.
What are your thoughts on the term real man? Because I think that every time I I hear that
manipulative.
phrase, a
It,
real man. It's like some kind of manipulation
but
trick. Like
it
a real
basically
man will pay my rent.
it is what very ignorant women you basically ignorant. It's how like ignorant women who don't understand male psychology and are frustrated use the phrase real man to mean man who does what I want. That's what it means. Man who will fit my image, my whatever her fucking whatever she conceptualizes as her ideal man, however retarded or delusional or nonsensical that is. Maybe he's like a complete badass, but he's also super sensitive. He's like nobody fucks with him, but he's like a big simp for her, right? Like that's a real man, to her bullshit fucking mind. That's a real man, right? That's what it is. It's a manipulative phrase, and that's why it's annoying to hear because most of these women do not understand male psychology. They actually they dismiss a lot of things that men are saying online as misogyny. They're like, "Oh, you just hate women." Well, if you just assume that everything they say means they hate women, then you will never the conversation has ended, right? Because you have dismissed what they've like. You lack the compassion, sympathy, and empathy to take what they're saying seriously, lend it credibility, and then consider it intellectually. You've done none of that. All you said was, "Oh, you must just hate women," and because you said those couple little words, now you don't need to consider it, right? Because well, he hates women, so his opinion is meaningless and means nothing, and there's nothing to be learned from that, and therefore I can dismiss it, and I'm superior to it. Right? You're just a
That's
little,
pretty much the reality of every label, right? Racist, sexist,
yeah. It's like
misogynistic,
it's like if I say
homophobia.
people. It's like if I say people from this country have lower average intelligence than people from this country. They're like, oh, you just hate people from that country. It's like it doesn't mean I hate them. Maybe I have many friends from there. Doesn't mean I hate them. It's just like, am I allowed to speak what I believe to be a fact without you automatically, erroneously, meaning incorrectly, inferring that the only reason I'm saying that is because I have some kind of hatred or contempt for the person who looks inferior or negative in that statement? Or am I literally just trying to tell the truth? Like, can you tell the difference? And even if they can tell the difference, they often don't want to because they're like, oh well, you're just a fucking racist. You just think all people who are not you are dumb and that you're better than them, and that it's like whatever, fuck off. I can't be dealing with you. You're just nonsense. Go away, please. I
I
will, I
think
will, I will move to the rich neighborhood in fucking Mumbai. Okay, so I don't have to deal with your fucking bullshit. I will find the smartest Indians, and I will say it to them, and they will agree with me. Fuck you.
I think be below a certain amount of critical thinking, people tend to be a lot like this. For example, people will get mad. Have you ever noticed that people who are poorer tend to be
Mm.
far more religious than people who have more
Yes.
money? And
Mm.
you say something that questions your religion. It's not like they think logically, okay, does this make sense or not? It's just like, this is blasphemy. You can't
Mm.
say that, man. This book says this, so that's true.
Mm.
So I think a lot of you know people who lack critical thinking, I don't think this has much to do with IQ. I think it just has to do with the fact that were you taught how to think critically as in your
Do
upbringing or
you,
not?
okay, hang on, let me ask you a counter question. Do you think a low IQ person can think critically? Do you think they have
At
the
some level,
rational
yes.
within a level coherent with their capable, like within a
But they
limited
might
capacity?
not reach the right conclusions if they're too dumb, but I do think that they can start thinking critically even if they're dumb.
If you think about it, religion is more useful to a stupid person than to. By the way, I think it's useful to everybody, but I think there are certain things smart people can work out for themselves without religion that dumb people need religion to work out. And furthermore, I will add, most dumb people in the West are not religious, and they are worse off for it. They would be better people if they were religious. Like, I had a tweet on this ages ago. If you think dumb religious people are annoying, go and meet dumb non-religious people. Basically, come to the West and meet the dumb people in the West who are not religious. They are fucking even worse, because at least the dumb religious people are trying to be good people. Do they fuck up lots? Yes, of course they do. But at least they try to have some morals. They are trying to aspire to something higher. Our dumb people are not trying to aspire to anything higher because they think God is nonsense, bullshit, fairy tale. You know what I'm saying? Like, quite simply, religion is, if you have two dumb groups from two different places, both are equally dumb. One has religion, one does not have religion. The one with religion will do better than the one without religion. Now, I do realize smarter
It
people.
depends on the religion.
Yeah, okay, that's true. Not all religions are equal. That's true.
Because some religions want to kill you, like you're not our religion, we're gonna kill you. It's very, the world was not designed like how we are today, right? In a very globalistic society where all countries are powerful. We kind of grew up in tribes where the tribes are fighting. So we had these religions which were very militaristic, where if you're not part of the religion, you are put to death. If you leave the religion, you're put to death, etc., etc., etc.
Yeah,
But
apostasy.
nowadays people are not willing to update the religion. They're like, no, the book said this 3,000, 5,000, 2,000, whatever number of years ago, and now we all got to follow it, even though it doesn't actually make any goddamn sense today.
So there are some things. Okay. So to touch on that, there are some things that are timeless. All right. So I will give you an example. When you teach, you learn. So by teaching something, when you teach that thing to somebody, it enriches your understanding of the thing you taught. So teaching is learning. That's true now. It was true 1,000 years ago. It was true 2,000 years ago. It was true 5,000 years ago. It has never not been true. It was true then and it's true now. That's timeless knowledge. That's wisdom. That's an inescapable, metaphysical, ontological reality of the human condition. There's never been any point where teaching has also not been learning, right? So in terms of like Bible, Quran, whatever the fuck, like ancient religions, they have these passages in them. These concepts are still true, right?
Agreed.
But
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 that's because human psychology has not changed in the
yes,
last thousands
exactly.
of years.
Yes, you're correct. Exactly. Now, in terms of technology and culture, you cannot eat these foods because of this diet, yada yada yada. Well, you guys, you did not have refrigeration. You did not have the cookers we have now. You just had a little fire. It's like, like I've had this debate with Muslims a few times about pork. It's like what I say to them is, in ancient, like they say, oh, pork is unhealthy, blah blah blah. It even says in the Bible, and there are passages in the Bible as well as Quran that say basically pork is like bad to eat, right? And my whole logic around it is, if that was true, if pork is so bad to eat, if it's really unhealthy for you, right? Like it's bad for you in terms of like it will make you sick if you eat too much pork, yeah? Then why is Germany the most powerful country in Europe? Because pork is a big part of German cuisine. They fucking love the sausages, the Frankfurters, many different kinds of sausages. Pork is a big part of German cuisine and of Polish cuisine, and the people there are very healthy.
Even Chinese, I think.
Yeah, Chinese like the pork as well. But it's like, so these like powerful nations, pork is a staple in their diet. But you have these like TikTok videos with Muslims, and they're showing like the cancers, supposed cancers, on like little microbes swimming around under a microscope within the pork, and they're like, this is why you don't eat pork. Pork is haram and all this shit. It's like the reason your religion forbids pork is because your religion, well, in terms of Islam, is over 1,400 years old, and back then they did not have a safe way to cook it, so there was an increased probability of becoming unhealthy of eating it back then. That's a contextually relevant within that time don't eat pork, it's bad for you, was good advice in like 700 AD. But we're not in 700 AD. That's like knowledge that has aged poorly. That's not timeless, right? Whereas when you teach, you learn. That is timeless. You see the distinction between these two things. So religion is kind of mixed with shit that's out of date and shit that will never be out of date, or shit that will take a very, very, very long time to be out of date and still isn't out of date, even though it was published over 1,000 years ago.
I'm gonna play the devil's advocate here. I'm gonna give you like an argument someone else gave to me actually.
Mm,
So I think it takes like a lot of discernment to realize what is out of date and what is not out of date.
it does.
And some people can't seem to figure out that part.
They
But
cannot, no.
to just give you an interesting chain of thought, someone I know from Twitter, like X now,
Mm,
is like it's a woman.
mm.
She's one of those neuroscientist, psychologist type people, and
Ugh.
she's in one of these polygamous relationships where like a bunch of people have sex with each other. So, like two men,
Ugh.
two women,
I
and
don't trust these people. I'm sorry.
I'll tell you the argument for it. So I'm like, so what is the logic behind it? Like, why would you do it? And
Well, have
her
sex with wait. What's the question? Have sex with lots of people, or
no, so it's like I don't fully understand it, but I think it's like six people married to each other type of thing. Like three guys, three girls.
like like the fucking weird the polycube. Honestly, I don't understand that shit, man. I can't tell you. Harems, as in very powerful men having many women that they can sleep with whenever they want, and those women sharing that man, I understand that. But when it's like cross gender and they all sleep, no, I don't get that. There's no historic precedence for that. That's some weird modern thing.
Yeah, so her defense for that is, she says that the reason we used to have monogamy and caring about women's virginity and all of those traits was
Mm,
because back in those days you could not be sure who is the parent of a child. So a guy had to make sure that a girl you're marrying has not been fucked before, because that
mm,
is going to
yeah,
ensure that the child you have is going to be yours. But
yeah.
now, today, we have contraception and the fact that we can accurately determine who is the parent of a child.
Mm-hmm.
These things that existed in religions are now outdated. So, according to her, polygamous relationship should be the norm, because these
I
things are
want to.
now outdated. Now,
I,
this brings us back to what you said. Some things are timeless, some things are not. So, what are your thoughts on this?
I want to talk to her dad. I mean, that guy fucking failed, didn't he? Like, like your daughter's in a polycube. Like, yeah, you're like you did not teach. Like, the thing is, right? It's not just about ascertaining paternity. Which that, by the way, she makes a good point that men need to ascertain paternity, and the only sure way they can do that is by knowing a woman hasn't had sex with anyone else, so she's been sufficiently sexually limited and that she's been chaste. She's only been with him and she hasn't had opportunities to have sex with other men. But that instinct within men is not just some, like, she just thinks it's some arbitrary thing that's been solved, but it's an evolved understanding, like that was the original reasoning, but that has now become an entrenched evolutionary pattern within men. So even if you have the technology now to ascertain paternity, irrespective of promiscuity, a man's not going to be like, oh, because we can use a doctor to find out if I'm the father or not, I don't care if you're a whore. Like, like, like biology has not caught up with technology. That's the point. So she's very ignorant to believe that just because we now have the technology to ascertain paternity, that men don't care if you're a hoe because you can use technology to ascertain that. Men inherently dislike hoes. And to be more specific on that, they like hoes for fun. They dislike committing to hoes. No man wants to commit to a hoe. Just because you can both go to a doctor and find out if he's the dad or not, doesn't mean he doesn't dislike committing to you as a hoe. All men hate hoes. for love and romance. And you're a hoe, but you're my you're my family, you're my wife, you're a hoe, but you're my family, and I'm responsible for you, and I must care for you and your feelings. You're a hoe, but I must care for you and listen to your problems. No fucking man wants to deal with this bullshit. You know how a man likes a hoe? For fucking. That's one thing he likes her for fucking. Okay? You want to meet up at 2 in the morning on Friday evening as a hoe? And you, yes, okay. If I'm degenerate enough as a man, if my life permits for this, I will like that and we will have a good time. But do I want you as a hoe because there's a technology that allows me to see if I'm the father or not? Do I want to be emotionally responsible for you? No, because I don't respect you, and I don't respect you because you give your pussy and to any man. And this is the flip side. They have evolved not to give their pussy away easily. So when a woman gives her pussy away easily to multiple men, you are disgusted by her, and you should be. That's a natural reaction.
You know, have you ever noticed the fact that a woman who sometimes they have a breakup, a bad breakup, and
They go
then
to
they
sleep with
become
tons of men.
sluts? I've
Yeah,
never
yeah.
understood the logic. Like, why would you do that? It's like, sometimes,
I
break up
understand the
with her,
logic. I
and then
understand
she's
the
like,
way.
I'm fucking these other guys. I'm like, why would I care?
I understand this. It's weird. Yeah, this is like it's retarded as fuck, right? But I understand this. There's the quite unquite logic to why women start having sex with lots of men after they have a bad breakup. You know how their stupid little minds. You know how they're thinking. They think that when he knows that she slept with other men, it's gonna hurt him. It's like revenge. To them, it's revenge. They think by sleeping with other men, like think about it. If a woman you love has slept with another man, it's gonna hurt. It's like say tomorrow your wife comes to you and she says, "I slept with this random guy last night." That's gonna hurt you, right? Because she's meant to be for you and for you only, right? This is the thinking. So these women, they think, oh, these women think if I sleep with other men and then he knows I slept with these other men, that's gonna hurt him because I'm meant to be his. But I gave myself to other men. That's gonna make him really fucking mad. It's like a stupid revenge. They think they are getting revenge on the man by sleeping with with other men, but also they like the attention and it makes them feel better about themselves because they're feeling low after a breakup and blah blah blah, and all that combines, and basically that's why they become whores after a breakup. It's so dumb. It's really really dumb. And honestly, if your daughter ever has a breakup, just like lock her in a house for like 3 weeks, then fucking like never let her go to a club, like go to the gym, go to the spa, like just love yourself, all this bullshit. Yeah, don't try to go to the club, don't try to go to the bar, don't try to be some exciting bitch, don't try to go to smoke shisha or fucking drink, go drinking or whatever, or meet a girlfriend. No, fuck all the stupid bullshit. Okay, you're not doing any of that because we know the nonsense will happen then that you will regret later down the line, and then you'll go, why didn't you stop me? Why didn't I stop you? Because you're a fucking adult. Do it yourself. But now you need stopping because if no one stops you, then you ruin yourself because you're an idiot.
What do you think is the future of Western civilization? Say, not exactly Western civilization. Take like these Western countries like America, European countries like UK and all of these countries, say in the next 30, 40, 50 years, because it kind of looks like their fabric, what keeps a society stable: marriage, education, sensible, common sense type logic. All of
Hmm.
those things are being heavily eroded in your countries,
Mhm.
and it looks like your countries are importing in a lot of foreigners who don't actually subscribe to your values, in the sense that
Correct.
you know
Mm.
how you put spice, like Indian spices, in Chinese food. It's no longer Chinese food type of thing.
Mm.
So what is your take on what is the future of the West?
Well, it's quite interesting because so we obviously there is the issue of immigration, and the less genetically European Europe and by extension North America is, the less European, I mean, and in the context of North America, the less Anglo it is, the more its character will change, and most likely the more its culture and its power and status in the world will degenerate. Because especially within the context of North America, the bulk of their immigrants, and we're not talking about people on H-1B visas from India who are like in tech or whatever, but we're talking about all these people coming over the southern border from like Latin America, you know, these like half mestizo, half Europeans from like Uruguay or Venezuela or some shit. These people, they cannot maintain the same same level of civilization that the original European immigrants to America established. They cannot maintain, like, you do not come from a superpower, you will not move to a superpower and keep it a superpower if you're the majority. If you're a minority, yes, you can benefit off the success and prosperity of the host population. But if you become big in numbers, if you are now representative of that place, you are most likely just going to import your foreign culture and emulate that, and that country will become weaker as a result. So that's my kind of view on the immigration aspect. Like within Europe, it's like, oh, like what about like more Islam? In terms of like Islam, obviously there are some assholes within Islam, like extreme fundamentalists. They don't like white people. They're like, you know, we're gonna make you all like a Muslim country and blah blah blah, these weirdos. But I don't, you know, a lot of Muslims, they don't think like that. A lot of Muslims are basically just like an Arab version. It's like Arab Christianity. That's how I see Islam. It's Arab Christianity. Because if you have a good knowledge of Islam and you have a good knowledge of Christianity and their family values, they are basically the same. And the reason Westerners do not share Islamic family values is because they have lost their Christian values, quite simply, because they're not incompatible. If you are a true Christian, you're a traditional Christian, and you compare your values with Islamic family values, you will not come across contradictions. You won't have an issue. It won't be offensive to you. But if you're Western and how they treat their woman is quite unquite offensive to you, and you're like, oh, they just like beat their woman and whatever, you're ignorant. You don't understand what the fuck's going on at all. And you're not just ignorant because you don't understand them. You're also ignorant because you don't understand your own ancestors, or because you think your own ancestors were like some savages and you've transcended your own ancestors. Your ancestors were these ignorant Christian people, but you've transcended Christianity now, except your ancestors actually had a family and continued civilization, and you're not and don't. So who's the real winner and who's the real loser? You're better than them, but they continue civilization and you're here because of them. And who's going to be here because of you? You know, food for thought. But that all of that aside, all of whole immigration and cultural elements aside, in terms of the West, I will say this: conservatism, the right wing, in terms of where the Overton window's at, there is more right wing, more non-politically correct, more sanity within the West now than there was 10 years ago. Now, that statement may seem ridiculous to some. You go, well, 10 years ago, the whole transsexual thing wasn't a thing, and now it is. And that's also true. These things are not mutually exclusive. So if I go into that a little bit, it means the left has become more politically extreme within the last 10 years, but the right has also become more numerous and more politically influential within the last 10 years. These things are not incompatible statements. They're not contradictory. They are not mutually exclusive. They're both true. The left has become more radical in the last 10 years, and the right has become more influential and less, how do we put it? More influential, but also like
more people don't like the left anymore. You could go with that, I think.
Yeah, yes. Yes. Look, more people hate the left now because the left has become more radical, so they just convert to the right. Now, obviously, people on the right, there are differing levels of opinion on things, or whatever. Someone's slightly right, someone's far right, whatever. But there's more. What I'm saying is it's very easy to think, the left is just the West is just going on this crazy path where there's just more and more insanity. And even though there is more insanity, there's also more sanity. There were like Elon Musk owns Twitter, and there are like loads of right-wing people on Twitter saying shit that would have got them banned 5 years ago that doesn't get them banned anymore. Surely that's a good thing for Western civilization, right? Surely. It's not a small thing. That's a big deal. Everyone's just like, just Elon Musk, whatever. Oh, I only get fucking $50 a month on my ad revenue. Oh, it sucks, whatever. Like, whatever it is, right? Twitter, as a quote unquote public square, yeah, you can say things now that are politically incorrect. You can use someone's incorrect pronouns and you won't get banned. You can make good right-wing points. Maybe you don't get that much likes or retweets. You don't go viral, whatever. You think you're shadow banned, blah, 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 whatever. But you can still post it. You won't get banned. 5 years ago,
Hey,
you would have got banned.
I liked it back 5 years ago because anyone who I did not like, I would say I identify as a woman, and I would get their account banned. Now I have to deal with them. So not very happy about that change.
So things have improved. You don't live in the West, but because your social media is on a Western-based platform, you kind of have to play by those rules, right? If you want to keep your account intact. And you must know, since Elon has taken over Twitter, that you don't have to be as careful as you can't just be like, yeah, gas all the Jews and crazy shit like this. Yeah, like if you're gonna say
A
that,
lot of things now that you could not say before. You are
yeah,
correct. Like you can call people retards now. Back in the day, you were banned for calling someone a retard. Now I call people retards every day.
yeah, exactly. And sometimes you need to call somebody a retard because they're a retard. It's it just has to be done.
No, but back
Yeah.
in those days, it's one of those things where these companies, by banning some people, they teach all creators to self-censor. And
Yes, they do.
self-censoring is the most effective way of censoring because
Mhm.
unlike black label logic, right?
Mm.
Most creators online, they make money from their work. And you get someone's account banned, you put a big dent in
My
their
boy,
income.
Black Label Logic's just catching those fucking strays, right? They're like, unlike you, most people make money. You're fucking brokey. Couldn't even
Yeah,
make
I actually like the guy's account. And I wish he
it.
was here still. But man, like the reason he left was like, it's like there are good reasons to quit something, and there
Mm,
are dumb reasons to quit something. And
mm.
this is like someone saying, "Hey, I stopped lifting weights because I scratched my forehead." Like the fuck? That
I,
shouldn't stop you from lifting weights. That's
you,
his reason because that's
you
an
know,
easy problem to solve.
how I think, how I think of it is like when expectations and reality do not align. So you expected to be in this place, you weren't within a certain time frame. That time frame elapsed. You weren't in that place, and you were like, okay, well, that didn't work out, and you quit. I think that was his logic, his Black Label logic.
No, but I mean, the guy can. His logic was purely monetary. I'm not making enough money from this brand. But
Mm,
if he actually tried to make money, he could make a lot of money without being scummy. So when people when the word "make money" comes up, right, people tend to assume it's like you got to sell some scummy shit and
I ain't doing nothing.
scam people. But you can make a lot of money doing good things, plus selling products that you can be proud of, and that people would be very happy to purchase. And I think
That
that guy could have done it. He just didn't do it.
Yeah, you're right. I think if he'd been able to have partnered with you, maybe he'd still be here. Maybe he'd have a better product line and greater profitability. He just lacked those skills. And yeah, no, I totally agree with you. You don't need like the problem is many people are scummy to make money. Doesn't mean you need to be scummy to make money. Like I said to you earlier, if you can create great content, and I hate the word content, but everyone knows what I mean when I say content, right? But if your shit is good, you don't sacrifice on your shit, and you can market that shit well, and you can do that consistently, you are a master. And you have to like the god for is like like you consistently produce bangers. You've won. You've won. And this is the thing. Most people, they can either make good content but bad marketing, or really good marketing but content is like average, above average. If you can do 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10 content, and you can market it really well, you have money printer, literally. And most people can't. Like, think about it. If everybody could do it, everybody would be millionaire, right? And then if everyone's a millionaire, everybody's poor because now everything costs tons of money because everyone's got lots of money to spend on bullshit. So obviously it's a niche skill. But yeah, no, I totally see where you're coming from.
I think that you are correct. You are right about what you said, but in my opinion, right, I think that anybody who is intelligent, like above a certain amount of intelligence, can be a millionaire. A million bucks is not that much money, and I don't think it's like
Yeah.
this. If you take someone who is actually good at creating and then give them some business skills, they can easily make a couple million bucks easily. Because if you can already make content, if you're intelligent, right, if you can analyze things, if you can make valuable content that people actually want to watch or consume, then you can make a lot of money from it. The problem is that 95% of content creators, they want to make money, but they don't want to make good content, in the sense that they want that hack. They want to hack it. They don't want to make good content, but they really want to make money. And that's when you start getting
Trying
people
to cheat
making
the game.
extremely polarized posts and what have you. And it's it's the nature of the internet. I think that, in 5-10 years, right, the cream rises to the top.
All these motherfuckers trying to cheat the game, just trying to play people's emotions for the get all those likes. But it's like, okay, so you got 20,000 likes on your bullshit, offensive, mildly controversial post. Who's going to remember that shit in 10 years other than to call you a dickhead? Who's going to remember that shit and think, I want to teach my kid that? Like, this is like what is the influence on what you said long term? Because you said nonsense that got you a lot of attention in the transient near future. Like, it got you, it made you a little bit viral, whatever. Okay. But down the line, who cares? No one cares, because it's nonsense. It's noise. It's noise, and noise means attention, which means it generates engagement in the short term. But if it's noise, long term, it dies. Or so if we use like one of Taleb's concepts, is not Lindy. It doesn't survive. It dies off. It's like Bible, Quran, whatever. They're Lindy, right? They have survived a long time. Like, these are very old books, and their lives, the older they become, the more their lifespan increases. Most things are the reverse of that. The lifespan decreases over time. Your viral tweet was relevant a year ago. Who even remembers it now? Who even cares now? Is anyone going to tell their child about it? No one cares. But you feel good about it because you got 20,000 likes. And you see, that's the trap. You create bullshit content no one cares about because it gets you good engagement now, rather than
It's
something
like
that
the
gets
equivalent of women showing their tits on Instagram. It's not good for you, but it's addicting, right?
yes, that's a good analogy, man.
So I run a company now which makes reels for Instagram from people's Twitter content. It's called Repurpose Pie. It's on repurposepie.io. And in the process of building this company, I had to personally consume maybe thousands and thousands of these reels on
You poor
Instagram. And
man. You poor
that
man.
stuff is really, really, really addictive, in the sense that you can watch Instagram reels for 45 minutes straight without realizing it. And by the end of it, you would be really tired, in the sense you've done nothing except, scroll these reels, and it just exhausts you psychologically. I have no idea how these people get anything done if they're watching reels, because it's just so tiring.
It's like fucking time travel, man. They say time travel is not real, but you can have 40 minutes pass in a four by looking at Instagram reels.
No, it fries your brain. I'm not even joking. It just gives you so much dopamine for such a sustained amount of time that all you want to do is, I just want to go to sleep after this. Because if you watch these reels, right,
Mm.
they're designed to, every 3 seconds something new shows up. Okay, first the chick is taking eggs out, then she's washing the eggs and she's making something out of it while she's saying something on top of the video.
You
And
need to,
then 30 seconds later a next video shows up
dude,
and
you
it's
need to
about,
pay, you need to
go
pay
ahead.
someone to do this shit for you so you can save your mind from this absolute brain cancer,
No,
dude.
no, I don't do it anymore. The
Yeah,
company.
I was gonna say, you need to like hire some poor other person to endure this absolute hellscape for
But
money.
my point is that it's just so addictive. It's just so it. I'm telling you, it's really addictive in the sense that back when I was making the company, right, I needed to understand what type of stuff goes viral,
Mm.
and it would be like, okay, I watched 10 shorts now, and then 5 seconds later, I kept my phone down. I would automatically pick my phone up and start watching shorts again. It's just that addictive, and
Yeah,
I think it's like a net negative for humanity.
it is. It is a negative. I agree, and especially for children. Like you know, all my like opinions on like women and children within Western society are seen as highly like manipulative and like terrible and like toxic masculinity and whatever. But this is all just like the ignorance of the general foolishness of the population. I believe my general views are actually benevolent and correct and protective. And what I mean by that is I wouldn't let my woman or my children, like they would not even have smartphones purely because I don't want them being exposed to this shit and being infected. Like I would care about them, and I don't want them to be addicted to nonsense and to be like potential vectors of attack on their innocence through the internet, through bullshit, through nonsense. So they just wouldn't have it in the first place. It's like, oh, all my friends have iPhones and I don't have an iPhone. I'm not cool, Dad. Why don't you buy me one? Because I don't want you to be gay. Your friends are gay and you're not gay because they have iPhones and you don't. Like that will be my very ignorant. Like, this is how I explain it in an arrogant way to them to make them shut up. Because I know if I try to explain it on a very logical way, they will just think I'm being a dork. They won't listen. If I say to them, listen, on social media, right? There are these very arrogant, often narcissistic influencer people, and they say these nonsense things, and the algorithm is trained to make you become addicted to it, and all you want to do is scroll on your phone, and you start believing stupid things you see on your phone, and then you think to be cool that you need to participate in this, and I don't want you to become a victim to that. So the reason I'm not letting you have a phone is because I don't want you to be affected by any of this nonsense, and I just want you to be a child. I just want you to enjoy your life and to just hang out with your friends. They're just like, what's all this bullshit? They're just, maybe they would appreciate that, but the point is, I can explain it in two ways. I can explain it in a transparent, logical way, and I can also explain it in an arrogant, no, you're not going to do that way because it's gay. So we can appeal to people's egos, and we can also appeal to people's humanities, and whichever method would work is the method I would use, whether it's a child or a woman. Well, I know either way that bullshit's not good, and I know as a man, even as a fairly intelligent man, I know I can scroll through that shit, and I can lose 20 minutes looking at this stupid bullshit, and that's me, right? So how is that going to be for a woman or a child? Like that, like if it can do that to me, what can it do to them? It's like, no. If men are meant to be protectors or what the fuck ever, we need to protect from bullshit. This is bullshit. Goodbye. Quite simply.
I will agree. I think a lot of parents are very lazy, right? They want the kid to stop bothering them, so they just give them the phone. Okay, go play with the phone. But I
Yeah.
think that's a little It's like giving someone drugs. Okay, stop bothering me. Here's some drugs. Go smoke these drugs.
No,
So
go fucking do some cocaine, you annoying little It's like, no, you make a good point. Like, if you're too tired to deal with your children, you will use the things you should be protecting them from as a means of creating space and peace for yourself away from your child. You will use it as a distraction for your child so you can get some time away from your child because you feel like your child needs too much from you. But really, you are failing them and prioritizing yourself in doing that. And many parents are like this. And it's like, are we just gonna like hate on these parents, or are we gonna try to understand? Like, basically, these parents who do this are too stressed and cannot handle their own children. So they're just like, yeah, go what, like, here, go, here's the iPad, go watch YouTube or whatever, and then they go watch like Logan Paul like faking suicide in Japan or whatever, these stupid nonsense. You go watch like, retards on YouTube.
if you want my opinion, right, I think that women, and you have these families now where both the girl and the man,
Mm,
they both work this corporate job where they're just disappearing from the house for 10 hours, 12 hours a day. And I
mm,
don't think that's a conducive environment to
no.
raise good children. I think that the woman, or at least one parent, needs to be in the house with them, because you just gotta be in the house with the kids. I mean, you can't outsource it to maids. What happens here in India is that people with money, right? They'll hire like a maid to look after the kid for 7 8 hours in the day, and
Mm.
then eventually the kid is gonna start calling the maid mom, and then the
Of
mom is
course they
gonna get
will.
super pissed off and then fire the
Yeah,
maid,
yeah.
and the poor maid is gonna be
Not
looking
the
for a
maid's
new
fault.
job.
It's not the maid's fault. She did your job for you because you didn't want to do it and you paid her to. It's your fault. And you're punishing her for your own errors because now you feel insecure because your child loves and recognizes your maid as superior to you. And then you get rid of the maid that your child now loves, by the way. And now your child's hurt just to satiate your insecurity. Your shit mother. You're fucking shit. If you was less of a shit mother and you didn't try to, it's like, oh, I want to be a mother. I want a genetic child that comes from me, but I don't want to do any of the mother stuff. So I will delegate that to some other woman. And then because I've delegated all the duties and responsibilities, when my child actually treats the person who cares for them as their mother rather than me, I'll act like the person who did exactly what I hired them to do is guilty and fire them for being good at their job. How fucking retarded is that? It's the most retarded shit.
It's a lot of selfishness because they didn't have kids to be mothers, right? They just had kids to get motherly feelings out of it, or to have the status of a mother, but they
And
don't actually want to raise the kid, if that
and to
makes
have,
sense.
yes, and to have the egotistically known they've genetically reproduced, their genes will live on, but they don't want to deal with the consequences of that. They don't want to pay, yes, they don't want to raise the kid. They don't. They still want to live like a childless person, even though they have children. Basically, you have a maid because you want to live like a childless person while you have a child. That's basically it. For a woman, not for a man. For a man, it's a bit different, but for a woman, yes.
For a woman, yes. I do think that it's kind of the man's fault for marrying such a woman, because you can always tell, this type of personality you can detect. I
Yeah.
think that it's not a good idea generally to marry a woman that the father of the woman has spoiled. You can spoil a woman
Oh,
with money. Like,
fuck
you can
no.
spoil a daughter with money, and then you marry that type of woman, you're fucked.
If I could teach my discernment to men, I would be very rich. If I could teach my ability to vet women to men, like the pattern recognition, and just being able to tell if she'll be a good wife and yada yada through all the cuteness, through all the flirting, through all the emotional intensity. If I could teach this, I would be fucking wealthy. But I can't teach it because you can't teach the sermon. The sermon is a combination of your own experiences and your own intelligence combining to form pattern recognition that allows you to judge, to discern, to analyze. It's inherent to your spiritual and your spiritual experience and your genetic capability combining. So all I can do is analyze shit on behalf of other men, which makes the limiting factor me, which makes n equals 1, which means it takes my time, which means I can't scale it, which makes it annoying. But if I could teach it, yeah, it would be a great fucking product. But you can't teach discernment, dude. Like you can say, look out for this, look out for that, blah blah blah, and the guy will still fuck it up.
I think you can share the principles in the sense you can't exactly teach someone to copy your patterns because that's not transferable, at least not yet, unless Elon's neural network neural link or whatever lets you do it.
Get in touch,
But I
Elon.
do
Then
think that there are certain patterns you can actually reveal to people in the sense that when a guy is inexperienced, right, there are certain things that that are very obvious to you, but for him would be like a game changer. It would be like mind blowing for him. For example, for me, it's very obvious that if you're too nice, women are gonna shit all over you, and you're not gonna get laid at all.
Treat you like
But for
dog
a
shit.
lot of guys, that realization is gonna be like a game changer for them.
They spend like 5,000 years saying where have all the good men gone? I just want a nice guy, and then the friend zone all of them, and then just get fucked in the pussy by some sociopath, and then go, oh yeah, all men suck because my ex was a narcissist. And it's like, what about the 5 guys you friend zoned who weren't? What about them?
Who are normal, who are boring.
Yeah, but they weren't attractive to you, right? Like, fuck off. This is why I struggle to feel sympathy for it, because it's like you do it to yourself, you know. It's like me. It's like if you keep saying I am, if you just do this like one simple thing, we will make like $500,000, and I'm just like nah. Or and then like 2 days later, I'm like, I'm so poor, I can't make any money. You're like, motherfucker, I just fucking showed you and you wouldn't do it. Like this is the same with women, right? It's like they're complaining the men suck. And where are the good men? But you don't care about the good men.
See,
And
I'll give you an analogy for this, and you will be able to empathize a lot after you hear it, okay? Now, as an Indian guy, I like spicy food. Now, I know spicy food is not
no
good for
shit.
me, and it hurts my stomach after I eat it. Maybe I should eat bland food, but I just like spicy food, man. What the fuck? So if I'm gonna go to a restaurant or I'm gonna go out to eat, I'm gonna order like a paneer tikka masala or something really spicy. Now it might make me sick afterwards, but even though I have the option of having something blander, fuck bland. Like, who wants to have bland food? It's like that with women. Like, who wants a boring guy? Like, they know that this bad boy type guy is not great for them.
They know.
But
Especially the high IQ ones. Here's the thing: the high IQ woman, in their moments of lucidity, they're like, "Yeah, this isn't going to end well," and they know it's going to end like absolute shit for them. But they're like, you know what? I fucking love talking to him. They just follow their emotions. They even though they know, they're just like, fuck it. This guy is. I just like they just conclude they love him, and they just go along with it. Like even the smart women. I always say smart women are retarded. Because high IQ women rarely have high wisdom that they act upon. They generally are just like the dumb woman or the average woman. They go along with the emotional bullshit. They go for the same assholes. So not even high IQ in a woman can fucking save her. They're all doomed. Do you know what? I don't have a daughter, but I'll have a daughter this one day. I hope she hears this. I'm going to tell her she's doomed while trying to save her from the fact that she is doomed. I'm like, you're doomed. You're so doomed. But
It's one of those things, right? If you have a daughter,
mm,
it's like 10x as harder as raising a boy, because with a boy, right, a boy can make a lot of mistakes and then just get over it. But with a girl, right, there are certain things in a girl's
do you know what?
upbringing
I
that you
spoke
fuck it up, you fuck for life.
I spoke to a man recently, right? And he's got two sons with a third son on the way. And I said to him, I said, so many men are very envious of you. You just have all sons. You have two sons, now you have a third son. Just sons. You know, like you don't have to worry about this shit. You don't have to deal with the female bullshit. You don't need to be extra protective. You don't need to deal with even if I'm high IQ, I'm just a fool because I'm following my emotions and I have these certain primal attractions that I'm going to follow, and I easily feel shame, and I'm neurotic, and I'm easily influenced and manipulated, even though I can also be manipulative, and I will try and use my cuteness to manipulate you, and I'm easily subjected to shame, but like I'm already tired just saying this stuff, it's so tiring, it's I want to go to sleep.
But you are nowadays, you're counting on the fact that the public school is not going to convert your son into a girl.
Yes. Well, wait, are we speaking in the West?
In the West, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, so far we haven't had transsexual teaching in schools in India, at least not yet.
It just amazing. Like someone told me, and you said that's generally accurate because I messaged it to you. Someone said to me that the Indians inherited British bureaucracy. And
Yeah.
bureaucracy is probably one of the worst fucking all the processes, all the protocols, blah, blah, blah. It's the worst shit ever. It's so inefficient and bullshit and nonsense. And it's like really, of all the things you're gonna copy, you're gonna copy that. Like, why? Like, it's not good for us.
It's like a Vancouver, where there's no better system to govern 1.6 billion people, so it's just there, and it's just hard to replace.
It's the placeholder until you come up with something else.
Do you have the thing is that for all the people who hate bureaucracy, right? No one has yet come up with a better system to run a big system, in the sense that if you have a small startup, right, then you can have like a different structure. Everybody reports to the
Yes,
CEO.
I love
But
small
when you have
startups.
10,000 employees, how do you handle it without bureaucracy?
No, you're right. It's scaling. Maybe scaling inherently is an issue. Maybe the most efficient, not just efficient, but also the most human way to go about things is instead of, because if you think, the Dunbar number, which means the average person can only maintain about 150 relationships without sacrificing other relationships to make room for new relationships. If that's true, and you have an organization of 10,000 for argument's sake, you can't possibly know everyone within the organization. So you need was bureaucratic bullshit. What about instead of trying to have large organizations, some one large central organization that oversees everything that's largely impersonal, that operates in numerous districts and whatever, and it's like a spider, like you have the body in the middle and all the legs go out to each district everywhere and it all comes back to the middle. Maybe instead of that structure, you just have like small structures, small like localized structures in each place where there's a more local feel for things, and then all those local structures can report to a central structure. So you would have less than 150 external structures reporting to the central internal, like the central structure, the national, like the federal, as Americans will call it, or the national structure, which would create a kind of like weird bureaucratic sense of localism with them, because there's enough districts for them to know the personality and the needs of each district. But then at the local district level, they can handle their own issues because it's their people, it's their roads, their territory, their neighborhoods, their families. They know the families there. They know that land. They know the history of that place. They are best situated to rule there and deal with the people there versus, oh, I went to university in like fucking like Mumbai or some shit and I don't even know the people in this random place like 200 fucking miles away, but because I'm rich and I'm educated, I get to say how things go there, but you don't even know them. You don't even like, they're completely different.
Theoretically you are right. What happens practically is that there are like 1% of the people pay for 99% of the other people, you could say. You can see this even with the whole tax system in various countries, right? A small percentage of people actually pay taxes. Now what happens is that if you just do this, right, where you have like the guys who are not paying any taxes govern their own districts, they just eat the money. Like they don't actually do any development because these are not forward thinkers, right? These guys are like dumb as fuck. They're not even
No,
making enough money
you
to be in
need
a taxable bracket.
you need to take the outliers from each area and promote them to like governor or whatever the fuck of the local place. So you need to find the guy who is like, he is from there and he is a peasant, but he is not as retarded. Like like the locals look up to him and he has higher stress tolerance and is a better problem solver than everybody else. That is the guy that you make
Okay,
in
okay.
charge of.
Hold that thought.
Mhm.
Do average people actually like the outliers in a democratic system? Would they vote for the outlier in the sense
It depends.
it
Depends.
they generally do not, right? They don't like the intelligent guy. They're like, this guy is too, who does he think he is? You know, he's not one of us. He doesn't think like
If,
us.
if they
They're dumb as fuck.
if they think he's a dork, they won't like him. But if they don't think he's a dork and they think he's smart, and if he solves problems for his people, they will like him. So like
What
think
usually
about it.
happens, at least here in India, is that one of them, right? Someone who's quote unquote one of them just says, elect me, I'm gonna give you free money.
This is the
I'm
problem
gonna
with
give you like
democracy.
X
This
amount
is
of rice and
this
X
is the
amount of
problem with
wheat free.
this is the problem with democracy. You can just bribe everybody with freebies.
Yeah, but with the system you're suggesting, right? With the going back to the topic about
Mm.
bureaucracy, the reason it exists is because the people who get elected are not exactly competent enough to run anything. They get elected because they promise free shit. So
What
now
you
you
need,
have to have a
what
second system that actually runs
I'll
things.
tell you
Go ahead.
exactly what you need. You need a ruthless, and by ruthless, I mean can make hard decisions but isn't unnecessarily cruel, intellectual elite who goes to each district, looks for talent within each district, finds the person who is the cleverest, who has the best combination of intelligence and charm within that district, and then basically makes them the manager of that district. And then do that like thousands of times, however many districts, do that thousands of times, and that will improve every like basically you need to find someone who is able to manipulate people but doesn't have bad intentions and is smart. And you need to
China is
repeatedly
doing
do
that.
that. Repeatedly do that. And they will improve the country like manifold. That's what you
China
have to
is
do.
actually doing that. It's working. They have a guy who's supposed to measure the happiness of a district, and if the happiness of the district goes down, the manager of that district is
Yeah,
either called for a meeting or something.
that's actually quite good because obviously, like, if there's inflation or if like everything becomes more expensive, the happiness will go down, and then that guy's gonna get pulled in, and it's like, okay, what the fuck's going on here? Like, everybody's miserable. It's like, yeah, shit costs too much money. Okay, why does shit cost too much money? Is it because that local guy did, or is it due to tariffs, or like a more like national policy, or like what is causing these price increases? Is it due to a local policy, or is it due to a national policy? Is it due to the fluctuations in the international markets? What exactly is causing this? And that's what you need to get to the bottom of. But unfortunately, a lot of developing countries suffer from improper administration, management at a political
Corruption.
level. I mean, the thing is, corruption's everywhere. Like we have corruption here as well. Western politicians are not non-corrupt. Like when we had COVID, under COVID, we had the government giving contracts to their friends worth hundreds of billions, and they were providing inadequate like basically hundreds of billions to give masks, protective masks, PPE for COVID, right? And then these
Yeah,
masks
the
they didn't
diaper thing.
and they didn't even provide the correct masks that did the right thing at an inflated price. They provided total shit that had to just be thrown away because it wasn't good enough. And they got to keep the money. And obviously they gave a kickback to the ministers and whoever who gave them the contracts in the first place. And then we see pictures of these motherfuckers like quote unquote Michelle Moan on a fucking yacht somewhere in like Monaco with her fucking huge tits out in her fucking 40s, and she's had all the Botox, so she looks amazing, and she looks way younger than she really is because she's rich as fuck and she's had surgery. And where does she get this money from? The English taxpayer. So that's corruption right there, staring right at us. Westerners have corruption as well. The only difference is corruption in the West happens at the absolutely highest levels. Corruption in the West is not available to average people. So you can't bribe a policeman in the West. If you try to, you will go to jail. But in like the third world, you can probably bribe a policeman and he will leave you alone. In fact, he'll ask you for the bribe. He will try to extract the bribe from you, right? But in the West, the police will never try to take a bribe from you. And if you offer them a bribe, you will get into trouble. That's the difference. But at the very highest levels in government, the corruption, the bullshit's still there. You know, the high levels of like central government, the bullshit is still there. And even at the local level, even in the local government, we have people getting paid like fucking $350,000 a year, and they don't do anything, and they just collect that from the local property taxes. In England, it's fucking bullshit and it's nonsense. Does anyone stop it? No. Does everyone hate it? Yes. Anything done about it? No. It's same bullshit.
What are your thoughts on the Chinese system of governance? It's very interesting where a lot of people just really, really hate China. They just hate it. China is communist. All the buildings are made out of paper. It's bullshit. But really, what they're doing is actually working, and they've kind of pulled out a lot of people from poverty. What are your thoughts on that? I'm a little conflicted in my opinion, but I would like to hear what you think.
I don't think the Chinese are communist, to be honest. I think their government has the word communist in its name, so the CCP, but which is the Chinese Communist Party, but it's like North Korea being called the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. Just because that word is in the name doesn't mean you wouldn't say North Korea is democratic because they're called a DPRK, would you? In the same way, just because the Chinese are called the government's called the CCP doesn't mean they're communist. You have to look at their economy and how they conduct things. Their rationalization for the fact they're not communist whilst pretending they are communist is they say it's communism with Chinese characteristics, which is how they emotionally cope with the fact that they betrayed communism whilst pretending to still be communist. Because let's be honest, if China is still communist, it would not be rich. No country that is genuinely communistic is rich. China is not communist. If you've never known someone from a communist place and how what I will say is that the communistic elements of the Chinese government is that they property, like under a communist government, you have no property rights. Everything is
Owned by the state.
state property. Yes. So in China, there are capital controls. You can't just convert all your money into dollars, right? The government isn't. It's like you're rich in your country, but if you try to leave, you're not rich anymore because let's say you have 200 million or something like that, right? But you can only get 50,000 into dollars. Okay, that's a nice little sum of money, but you're not. That 200 million, 50,000, these are very different numbers. You can't take that, it's stuck there because they have capital controls in place that do not allow you to convert your capital into foreign currencies because they are engaging in economic protectionism. They don't want their own currency to fall. So China's the kind of place that can disappear billionaires and obviously, a Chinese billionaire or a Chinese millionaire who's worth hundreds of millions, he can probably find ways to, like unorthodox ways, to try and convert more of his capital into USD or into Bitcoin or whatever. He can try and get more of it out. But it's like, why, like these places, right? Like China, is like, you're so powerful, you're so strong, got all this money, blah, blah, blah. Why is there so much capital flight from your economy into the West? Like, you're superior. Should we
But
not?
the same thing happens in the West. There's a lot of capital flight from the West to China and all
I
these
think
other countries.
I think for different reasons. So if we explain the reasoning, capital flight from the West to China is because Westerners think there is potential for greater growth in China than in the West. It's greed, right? Capital flight from China to the West is they don't trust the Chinese government and they think they could lose their money. Whereas if they have it in the West, it's safe. So it's safety versus greed. Easterners want their money in the West because it's safer, because the government can't just take it off them. Or if the government just asset strips them, oh well, you can't get this home, this property, this business, blah blah blah, these assets because that's all in the West. So therefore, you haven't made me poor. I still have some money, right? Whereas Westerners who are investing in the East are thinking, I will get a higher percentage profit. I will get 10% or 15% instead of like 2%.
Yeah, makes sense. You are right about that.
Yeah, that's the difference.
I do think that for the average Chinese guy, right? I'm not, when I say the average Chinese guy, I mean like the normal Han Chinese person. I'm not talking about the Uyghur Muslims or
Mm.
the Tibetans. I mean like
Average
the
hard Chinese with jet black
Han
hair
Chinese
and
man.
baby
I think
cute.
the guy would be pretty happy with his government. So from the outside, a lot of people think, yeah, the Chinese people must hate the Chinese government, right? China should, they don't have any rights. But from the perspective of the average Chinese, Han Chinese guy, so earlier he didn't even have computers, his country was poor as fuck, and
Mm.
now he has all these technologies, he's making a lot of money. These guys would be very happy with their government, communist or not communist.
Yeah, I mean, based upon what you've said, and I mean, sure. I mean, yeah. I think the one area of discontent would probably be the lack of women due to previous. They don't have enough girls because basically, to put it in a very crude way, under the one child policy, pre-industrial China, when it was still agricultural, right? If you have a farm and and the woman is pregnant and she has a girl, the girl is not going to be as useful on the farm as a boy. They would drown the girls in a river. So they don't have enough girls. They have 200 million less girls than boys. They have a skewed gender ratio because of that. But you have a boy, you keep the boy because the boy, he's stronger, he's more useful on the farm, he grows up into a man, blah, blah, blah. That was the thinking back then, but now they are paying the price for that thinking now because they don't have enough women. So there is, no matter how successful you are as a Chinese man, I mean, obviously, the more successful you are, the easier it's going to be for you. But there's not enough Chinese women to go around. Like basically, China's like the opposite of Russia. In Russia, there's not enough men to go around for all the women. Too many men died in World War II. China's the opposite. under the
China
one
needs
Trump.
a war. That's what I was thinking. They need like a small war where
It's like kill more men and we will fix the issue. Kill more. Why are there so many Chinese? Too many Chinese men. If you have fewer Chinese men, then the math will work.
you get some extra territory from the war as well.
Mm.
Maybe take over Japan or some shit. Who knows?
No, like I honestly, I think if the Chinese have any kind of gripe with their government, it's probably the anti-capital controls, the property rights. They probably like better property rights, and they probably not to be constantly surveilled by AI and have a social credit score and all this bullshit. They probably
Man,
appreciate a little more privacy.
you know,
And
I will disagree with you on that 100%. I'll tell you why.
yeah, go on.
In your country, right, you're used to all these freedoms and what have you, and that's why you think this way. In
Mm,
India, I would really, really wish they come up with this whole thing with social credit systems and what have you, because I'm
mm,
tired of idiots spitting their tobacco and everything everywhere and dirting the place and throwing trash. If there was a social credit system which was actually surveilling people, and someone throws trash and $10 are taken out of their bank account instantly, I think
mm.
India would be much more clean, much
See,
more
you don't.
hygienic.
Do you know what? You
For us.
don't need a social credit system for that. What you need is a better funded, less corrupt police force.
Yeah, but that's not happening.
So you think that the social credit system is more likely than a non-corrupt police force?
I think when you involve technology to do something, the amount of corruption goes down, and that has really been the experience in our country, where
Okay,
technology has helped reduce corruption significantly because it takes the human element out. The
okay,
corruption happens from the human element. So if you
that's
can install cameras on the railway stations, and anyone who spits
you can
that
still
red tobacco thing is fined instantly, like $1,000 out from a bank account, these guys would stop spitting tobacco in 2 days.
don't underestimate the human corruption element. You can still delete footage, or you can still use footage of another man who looks similar and pretend it's this man and frame him for it, even if he's innocent because he didn't pay the bribe. You can don't underestimate human corruption. Even with the cameras, you can still play
Yeah, but
around.
to do that level of corruption, you have to be a certain amount of well connected. I think the
Mm.
average
Yeah,
guy
that's
spit.
true. Okay, fair point. Yeah, the average. Okay, I agree. The average. Yeah, no, you make the average fucking police idiot isn't gonna.
Because I'm not even joking. Indian people are so, they don't give a fuck about hygiene to the point where you could go to a beautiful scenic mountain and anywhere people gather, it's there's like 20 wrappers of chips and lays and what have you thrown around, plastic cups. Come on, man, it's a mountain, just let it be beautiful.
You know, I've heard the same complaints in Chinese culture. So basically,
Exactly.
the Chinese government, right, bought lots of land of peasants, and a lot of these peasants became like millionaires overnight in China because the Chinese government bought their land from them, right? And now these peasants, they go to like the tier one cities like Shanghai, Beijing. They go to like Singapore, whatever. Yeah, they travel around, and they got all this money, so they're like quote unquote rich Chinese, right? But even though they are rich Chinese, they don't. Have like peasant background, and they're like not educated and kind of like retarded. So they like go along and they like spit and they're like super rude and people don't like them. They're like from the countryside of China, but they're rich because the government bought their land from them. This
This
what you
happened
just
to
said reminds me of this shit.
this happened to a couple of people I know actually in India. So a lot of people from my extended family, they had these farmlands, and then the government wanted to build a highway, and they paid these guys like 30 times the amount of value of the land. And what
Nice.
these guys would do is that they would actually go and you know collude with the government officials to inflate the value of the land. So for example, if you get paid 10 times the price of the land, but then
Mm.
instead of saying your land is worth 1 lakh, you say the land is worth like 12 crores. It's like 1200 lakh. and then you get like 10 times that amount. So a lot of people I know became filthy rich just by scamming the government. Not just like a lot of villagers are filthy rich simply because they own like some land and then the government had to build a highway through that land and paid them a lot of money.
You know, they are lucky that the government, that even the Indian government, is civilized enough that it is willing to buy it from them. Because if the government came along with some army men and said, "Your shit is our shit now," what can they do? Can these poor
No, no, no.
villagers? Can these
That's not.
poor hang? Can these poor villagers afford a lawyer?
Sorry,
To
can you what?
can a third world villager afford to employ a lawyer to have a legal battle with the government
Yes,
for illegally
yes,
seizing their land?
yes.
Really?
Yeah, it's like this where whatever I win, I'll give 10% of that to you. And obviously, this is a very lucrative case for the lawyers, so they will take it.
Oh, okay. So what you're saying is, we need to train Indian lawyers to stop to stop defending peasants from government tyranny.
What
So they can.
actually happens here is that the government, it's like a way to bribe people, right? Like,
Hmm,
if you guys vote for us, we're going to build a highway through here. And everybody knows what that means.
what a highway!
Well, a highway, like a
Yeah, yeah,
road.
yeah.
So it's like if we win, we're gonna connect this town to the highway. So that means that a bunch of you guys' properties are gonna get taken over by the
Ah,
government at inflated prices. It's like a bribe.
and also, if say you live in like a remote place, but now it's connected to a major city, then it becomes like a commuter town, which will increase the property values of all the homes that are already there.
That sort of happens, but not really, because no one actually wants to live in villages in India, in the sense that you like, if you have a house in the village, right, it's
Hmm.
probably because you were born in that village.
Hmm.
No one actually takes their money and goes and buys a house in a village. People want to buy houses in cities because everybody wants to live in the city. I think you told me in that in your country it's the opposite, where people don't want to live in the city and only broke
Hmm.
people live in the city. Here it's people live.
It's not that only broke people live in it. It's but so when a country first industrializes, in the earlier stages of industrialization, people move from the country to the city because that's where all the jobs are. That's where the progress is. That's where the development is. The city people, the urbanites, are seen as superior to the rural people. They're more educated. They're wealthier. Blah blah blah. Oh, I'm from the city. Oh, what? You're just from a village. Oh, you're just a village person. Blah blah blah. But so that makes sense within that context. But the West had this over 100 years ago. We are past that. Now we're at the stage where in the city, like we have social welfare, right? All the social welfare housing, as in where the government puts poor people to live, is usually in the city in apartment blocks. So like in America, in the United States, and within like the United Kingdom, most people who are impoverished will live in a city or a town. They will live in an urban environment. It's like when you think of like an African American, do you think they live in some quaint little village? No, they always live in the inner city, right? With like high-rise apartments and shit. So it's the opposite. Like poverty becomes associated with the city. Now, is there wealth in the city? Of course there is. You go to London, obviously there's wealth there. You see both. You see great wealth and you see great poverty. They're fucking juxtaposed antithetically side by side. But villages in the UK, if you live in a village in the UK, you're probably not poor. Doesn't mean you're rich, but you're not poor because there's no social housing doesn't really exist in villages. It means you must own the property. Western property is expensive. Even if you live in the middle of nowhere, it's still going to cost you a fair bit of money. So it means you've deliberately decided you want to live somewhere peaceful, away from other people, and the government isn't going to help you with that. So you spent probably at least six figures of your own money to live there, and whilst you live there, you probably won't have many local amenities. So you're not going to have like Walmart on your doorstep or some super big supermarket. So you need a car, you need a good car, a car that can handle like hills and bumps and has good suspension and shit, like a 4x4, like a Jeep or some shit, right? And you're going to have to travel further and you're going to spend more money on fuel, which if you're a poor person, why do you want to spend more money on fuel, right? So yeah, like if you live in a village in the UK, you're probably not poor. I've never known of a poor person to live in a village. In fact, if someone tells me a village, I assume they're at least middle class. I don't assume they're rich. I assume they're at least middle class. Because poor people in my country just don't live in villages. They live in an inner city. They live on a quite unquote council estate or some shit. You know, they don't know. It's the opposite from the third world. Whereas in the third world, all the poor people live in villages. It's quite a poetic thing. You know what it reminds me of? That thing that he used to say, like was it rich people used to drive cars and poor people used to ride horses, but now poor people drive cars and only rich people can afford horses. It's kind of like that with the whole village city thing. It's like only rich people, like only the better off people used to live in cities and the less well off people used to live in villages, but now better off people live in villages and the what not see here's the thing, not everyone who lives in a city lives in the city is poor, but most of the poor live in the city. It's an overlap, right? There are rich people in the city as well. It's not that there's no rich people in the cities here. Of course there's rich people in the cities here, but it's most of the poor are also in the city.
How do you guys? So this is a good intellectual exercise for you.
Mm.
How do you cope with the fact that you live in a declining country, in the sense that overall, like your entire country is on the decline
Mm.
economically, socially, what have you? Like, how do
Mhm.
you handle that? Because for me, right, I take
Mm.
a lot of pride in being an Indian, and of course, from the outside perspective, India has shit everywhere and what have you. But it's on the rise, in the sense that every
Mm.
year things
It's
keep getting
ascendant.
better.
Yeah, yeah.
So that gives me a lot of pride. It's like,
Mm.
when you're on the winning side, it gives you that dopamine and gives you a lot of
You're,
confidence and
if,
like,
if,
we're
if,
better than others, we're on the winning side. Fuck
if we
everybody
use
else.
if we use market terminology, you're bullish. You're on the up. You're fucking your chart's going up. You're fucking making more profits. All the numbers are going up. Everything's improving. You're positive. You're fucking pumped. You're like, yeah, we may not be as good as you, but we're getting better. We're getting better, and we keep getting better, and we're winning. That's what you mean. That's how you feel about India, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, but we don't have that same energy. So you're asking, well, how do English people deal with the fact that country is getting worse? They're miserable. English people are miserable. They're fucking a lot of they're just miserable people. Like not all. It's not like every English person's incapable of having fun or I think English people have a sense of humor. I like the English sense of humor. I don't know how to define it or how to explain it, but it's a unique characteristic of our culture. I think even despite all the weird political correct bullshit, we are also good at laughing at bad things and unfortunate things and tragic things in life. We have a good appreciation for dark humor. But no, I would say the general attitude and energy and sentiment is a negative one. It's a recognition of the fact that we've been mismanaged by our government and continue to be mismanaged by our government, and there is too much negativity. But it's nobody. It's hard to explain to you. It's like the thing is the English people like to moan as well. They really like to complain about things, even when things are going well. They find joy in moaning. So even if you had a good day,
Like women.
yes, but yes, oh yes, I hate to say it, but yes. But the reason why it's not for feminine reason. It's for they don't want to look too successful, right? So say everything is going really well for you, you will find like the one little thing that's going bad for you because you know the person you're talking to is probably not having a good time, right? So if you're just saying to them, "Oh yeah, all my businesses are going well, and all the women love me, and blah blah blah," and they're gonna hate you, right? So you don't want to stand out too much. So what are you gonna say? You're gonna find the one thing that like annoys you, and you're gonna be like, "Ah, yeah, this happened the other day," and they'll be like, "Oh yeah, I understand what you mean," blah blah blah. The English people love to moan and and shit, like bond over their moaning. This is what I've noticed, but not in like super, not like women who just want to fucking like just denounce everything and just get sympathy. Not to this extreme level, but they like to have a little, you know, oh, the weather was so bad today. They just like to have a little bond over a small negative thing. Not
No,
you know,
what I
not
mean is,
they're not
I
trying to
mean,
be
I
the
get,
they're not trying to be the victim. They just don't want to flex that they're doing too good in life.
no, I get you. What I mean is that, you know how, okay, I'm not sure if you might be able to relate to this, but at least
Mm,
me or
mm.
a lot of people in India, like, you feel like that sense of nationalism. You're like, okay, we're gonna own all of this, all the world. We're gonna be a superpower in X amount of years, and like
Now you're copying
gives you
our
a
ancestors.
very grounded feeling. Like you're undefeatable. Makes you very optimistic about the future. Like, if
See,
that makes sense to you.
now you have the right idea about copying my ancestors. That's how they felt. That they rule everything. Yes. No, we don't have that feeling at all. No, that's not that's not even part of the conversation here at all. But the thing is, you may not rule everything. Like I always say to you, the Chinese are not going to just let you rule everything. You have to defeat. I always said to you, like Indian people go on about like colonialism, fucking Britishers, blah blah bullshit, right? They're not even the enemy anymore. The Chinese are your main obstacle. Deal with them. If you cannot beat them, your big Indian dreams won't come true. You're not gonna rule everything because the Chinese are gonna be there breathing on your neck. you know?
Like that a lot, like Britain and France back in the day, where one is
Well,
always trying to.
you mean when we had a war for 100 years and they conquered us and then we conquered them? We had a back and forth of conquering one another. Is that what
Yeah,
you
we
mean?
didn't have the conquering stuff happen because the Himalayas are in the way. But what I mean to say is that there's a lot of, what's the word for it? A sense of pride, or I don't know what's the right word for it, but
Mm,
you get that boost in your psyche in
yeah,
everything you do, with the expectation that the future will be better, in the sense
that's good.
that I know that for a fact the future will be better.
And I
But
think
when
that
I talk to a lot of foreigners, they don't always feel this way.
no, you're right. And I think for any developing country that has seen the rapid level of industrialization that your country has seen, that is normal psychology because you are seeing the growth, right? Like, of course, you would feel that way. It's natural. Even with all the corruption and all the bullshit and all the stupid old tribal practices and ignorance and yada yada yada, that's the technology, the economic growth is so great that it supersedes all of that. And despite that, irrespective of that, improves conditions anyway, even
Exactly.
despite all those weaknesses and bullshit, still improves things. Now we are at the stage where we cannot improve things despite that bullshit. That bullshit is what's bringing us down because we don't have like some other nation or some other foreign land with, we don't have some like aliens who have like teleportation and fucking invisibility and much higher technology and better system of law and economic principles that they can teach us. As if they share this knowledge with us, we will see this big gain. And even though we have all the stupid feminism and ignorant nonsense and yada yada, life will just get so much better for us because of
No,
that. So we
I
will
think
grow
a lot
anyway.
of it is down to policy, is it not? Because if you take, say, America, right? In the
Mm,
USA, there are so many different companies, startups showing up. In India, there are lots of startups, businesses showing up. but you
Mm,
never hear of like a big startup from Europe. It just
that's
I
true.
just haven't heard of it. Maybe I haven't heard of it, but it doesn't seem like Europeans are inventing stuff. It just seems like they're taxing and giving away, they're becoming national socialists. You get stuff for free, everybody gets like a good job, free education, what have you, what have you. And for that, you have to pay 50, 60% tax. But no one's making stuff in Europe. No one's inventing anything. At least that's my perception. Like it's not the case in America and it's not the case in India. In India, we have lots of startups. In the US, you have lots of startups. In China, you have, I don't know, I'm assuming they have startups.
If you want innovation, you need a low tax environment. You can't. Yeah, yeah, you need a low tax environment for innovation. Sure. And Europe, by the way, like maybe to you as an Indian, it's like a blob. It's all kind of the same, but each European nations are very distinct. The Scandinavian nations are very distinct from the well, they have they're like their own set, right? So like Iceland, Norway, Denmark, Sweden, Finland. That's like one set of countries that all have cultural similarities that are distinct from the rest of Europe. And then the UK or England specifically, but I guess the UK is distinct because it's English speaking, because of its history and whatever. And it left the EU, and even though it's in Europe, it has its own heritage. It is the originator of the language we're speaking right now that Americans speak, whatever. That's one thing. Then you have like the Spanish speaking world. Then you have the fucking Italians. Then you have the Slavics in Eastern Europe, like the Poles, the Romanians, fucking Croatians, Serbs, and all that. Like it's very easy to say Europeans, but an Eastern European, a Western European, a Northern European, and a Southern European are actually all very different types of people. You know what I'm saying? So what you're saying best describes like Scandinavian people, like high levels of social welfare, low levels of innovation. So when's the last time a Scandinavian invented anything? And Scandinavia is a nice place, other than the fucking shitty feminism. They got beautiful, beautiful women, handsome men, fairly intelligent, high standards of living. Just don't invent anything and just retardedly feminist. you know, and increasingly way too many immigrants who are going to destroy their countries. But other than that, great places. But that's true for them. But could you say the same for, say, I don't know, Portugal? No, Portugal's way poorer. Portugal doesn't have anywhere near the same level of social welfare or
Isn't
level of
Portugal
taxation.
like the pre UK where they had like the big empire before the UK did, like Spain and Portugal, but now they're the broke as fuck countries of Western Europe. At least that's my understanding of the situation.
Well, relative to India, at one point, Portugal, Spain, and the UK were like imperial competitors. They were all so they were they scramble for Africa and for India. So like Goa was Portuguese territory in India. Portugal did have an empire at one point. Obviously, Brazil was part is like India was like the biggest land that the English took over. Brazil was like the primary land that the Portuguese took over. But yeah, nowadays Portugal is, even though it's in Western Europe, it's compared to its neighbors, it's poor. Like it's not as poor as, say, India or a third world country. It's like a second world country. It's not a first world. Basically, it's a second world country surrounded by first world countries. Portugal, yeah. So, and Portugal's a nice place if you go there. Decriminalize drugs, good weather, yeah. Would
What are your
highly.
thoughts on decriminalizing drugs? Seems dumb from my perspective.
I don't know. I mean, I see. My opinion on drugs, like narcotics, is probably my most left wing liberal politics. So if you listen to me talk, you think this guy's not very left wing, whatever. He's like authoritarian, he's right wing, conservative, blah blah, whatever. But in terms of drugs, I'm probably my most left wing position will be on drugs. And what I would say on that is, I think I think what people put into their own bodies is up to them, but I think lower IQ people do not handle drugs as well as higher IQ people.
I will disagree with that, and I'll tell you why.
Yeah, go on. I want to hear your disagreement.
Would you say I'm a lower IQ person, or would you say I'm a higher IQ person?
You're not low IQ. You're not a genius, but you're not low IQ. You're higher. Yeah, you're more open to arguments and things, which is not a low IQ trait. So yeah, I would say you're higher IQ. Yeah. Not a
But
genius, because I'm not a genius either, by the way. I've spoken to geniuses. They have these weird fucking take. Yeah, anyway, go on.
like I have a personality which is very prone to addiction in the sense that,
Mm,
for example, like if I start eating chocolate, if I get a box of chocolate and I start eating them, then I'm
mm.
probably going to eat the entire box. For me,
Oh,
it's very
whatnot.
difficult to
Yeah.
resist and only eat like one chocolate. So my solution is I just don't buy chocolate.
That's not
And
that's not a byproduct of intelligence. That's there's a part of your brain that is responsible for self-discipline, right?
what I mean is, I think that with the whole drugs thing, right?
Mm,
I think most people are prone to addictions, it regardless of how intelligent they are. And
mm.
I think that you give the average person even a small amount of heroin, right? Let's say you just get them.
Heroin for sure. Everybody's fucking done.
So my
That's
point is that I think the whole legalization thing, they haven't thought it through because once you're addicted to it, you lack the free will. At least most people do. At least I do, right? I am a very disciplined person, but
mm,
e- for me, it's difficult to not eat chocolate once I've started eating it.
mm.
And that is God's honest truth, right? I could pretend like I'm like the God and I can like resist anything,
I
but
had one bite of the tastiest chocolate ever, and I didn't eat any of the rest of it, and I just kept
no,
looking
what
at
I
it
mean
and touched it.
that do you guys get those lint boxes where you get like,
Yes,
I don't know, 100
yeah,
different pieces of those small lents
fucking so
with
good, man.
different colors, blue, red, what have you?
Love that shit. Lint is amazing. Yeah, go
Exactly.
on.
So now if I have like two of those and I have like a box in my fridge, right? Every 20, 30 minutes, I'm gonna let me have a lid. Let me have one more piece. Let me have one more piece. And
All right. Well, we'll
in
just
3 days, the entire box is gone.
do you know what we need to do, Harsh? We need to get a time traveling Victorian to colonize your box of lint. So you can't have it. Steal your lint. No, not for you.
But my point is that the average person today is overweight, right? In the sense, the
Mm,
average person today cannot even control what foods they're eating. In the sense that McDonald's has done more harm than good,
mm.
and if we can't expect them to control what they eat, then how can we expect them to control, say, how much heroin or cocaine they
Oh,
use?
so you know what you said about heroin, right? Not okay. I just want to say, not all drugs are equally addictive. Heroin is there are different addiction profiles for different drugs, right? So, for example, with heroin, you would be hard pressed to find someone who wouldn't become addicted to it after doing it. It's such an inherently addictive drug. You would be an extreme outlier if you could regularly do heroin, say once a month, and not fiend it all the time. You would be the weirdo outlier. Most people, they have heroin, they want more heroin the next day, the next hour, whatever, right? But not all drugs are that same, like, are at that level of addiction. So let's use cocaine as an example. Cocaine is also thought of as an addictive drug, but it's not as addictive as heroin. Now, there are some people, they do some cocaine, they need more cocaine. Like say they did cocaine yesterday, today they wake up, they need more cocaine. There are other people, they did cocaine yesterday, they wake up today, they like the idea of doing some more cocaine, but if they don't get any more cocaine, they don't care. It's like, okay, I would like some, but I don't get any, whatever. It's like, what's the difference between these two people? There are genetic markers for things like alcoholism, nicotine addiction, um, cocaine addiction. I haven't done my 23andMe because I don't trust that shit, because I know the Chinese will get my genomic data, and I'm not trying to give it to them. But if you do get your genome sequenced and you go and look at all your biomarkers and all that shit, it will show you what you have a propensity for addiction towards, and it will show things like nicotine, alcohol, whatever. So yeah, heroin is generally addictive to everyone, but most drugs are not as addictive as heroin, and some drugs are super addictive to some people and not addictive to others. So, like some people, for example, cannot drink alcohol because if they drink alcohol, they become an alcoholic. They want alcohol all the time, yada yada yada. Other people can drink alcohol and then not drink it for months and not care. Genetic differences. So I guess when it comes to quote unquote drugs, it's not just intelligence, but it also comes down to your inherent physiology. If you crave something like sugar and you want it every second after you've had it, you can't handle it and you should isolate it and eliminate it and not have it. But if you can have it without craving it like that after the fact, you're okay with it. And you can, use it recreationally or whatever.
It's one of those things that you're born with, I think, because my brother, back when we were kids, right? My brother, he would do this where we would get 10 chocolates and he would have half of a chocolate and he would leave the rest of it in the fridge and be like, I'm gonna have the rest of it, in the next day. So I have chocolate every day. Like he was very good at delaying gratification. He is very good at delaying gratification. But on the other hand, I would have all 10 chocolates on the first day. The next day I would start having my brother's chocolates.
Your chocolate is my chocolate. Get your own chocolate.
I was never very good at delaying gratification. I've read these studies which show that, if a kid is better at delaying gratification, then his chances of success in life are much higher. But in my personal case, I mean, I suck at delaying gratification. That's why I don't buy chocolates because I know I'm going to eat it.
Yeah, so you know your weakness. So your strategy for dealing with your own weakness is to eliminate it entirely by not introducing it into the equation in the first place. That's how you deal with it. If it's there, you're just gonna just you're just gonna consume that shit. You're just gonna go at it. So you just like, I knew what I'm like, so I'm not even gonna get it. I am not even gonna let it enter the equation. That's how you deal with it.
It's been with me. It's like this with a lot of things in the sense that anything that produces way too much dopamine, if I start using it, then for me it becomes like a task to quit it. And I have to actually
Yeah.
actively stop doing that thing and then get it out of my system. I have
You
a
know,
very addiction prone personality.
this applies to women as well. They can be seen as a source of addiction.
Yeah, it kind of does apply to women as well.
It's like the reason you don't talk to a woman is because if you do talk to a woman, you may be creating some problems for yourself. Primarily that you'll have a little bit too much fun and you won't know when to stop. And there you go.
All right, it's at 1 o'clock here. This was great talking with you. We're at 3 hour mark. I think that
Yeah. Oh
it's
yeah.
a decently
Has it
long
been that
podcast.
long? Yeah. No, that is good. Yeah. Cool. I did not
I
even
hope you
realize
guys
it been that
like.
long.
Go on.
I did not even realize it being 3 hours, man. I was just wow. Cool.
Yeah, it was fun talking with you.
Yeah.
And I
Likewise.
hope you guys like the show. Leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, and have a good day. I'll see you guys whenever I shoot the next episode.